My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California.
Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state. And it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. It is currently, I want to give the time, it's 8:06 a.m. And I want to document inside, engineer light strolling across the ceiling. And as you can see here, engineer light is shooting into the depths of the apartment. This is coming what is underneath a covered patio. There's a demon stalking in the path out here. The engineer light is coexisting with there being present in the parking lot. This is what, again, the Mazda MARMMAK is doing under the fake sun, as I documented on 3 separate occasions. This is the fake sun, has nothing to do with sunlight, but we do have the fake sun right here at 8 o'clock. And you know that it stays here after 4 p.m. There's no explanation for what is light. This is shade on the outside. Okay, these are demons that are stalking in the path. It's a sex offense while you're subject to terrorism and also stalking via engineered light inside of an apartment. This third party's license plates, documentation of gang stalking on behalf of the state. This is engineered light that's just appearing on the sidewalk. Right, license 8GEN 638. Stalking in the path and is monitoring while the entity is maintaining what is present and on the inside of the apartment, all manner of engineered light moving across the ceilings. Then this is while I'm in operation of my communication device. That's amplified train. 8GEN 638 is still monitoring evidence. The people of the state at Woodside are going to prison. Okay, this is the fake sun while you hear what is impossible audible activity, and you also know that that's impossible audible activity because this fake sun sits over the same apartment building after 4:30 in the afternoon. There is shade right here, and you're looking at the pattern of the gate that's appearing on the ground. And that's how you're recognizing, how you're understanding the specific environment, which is inside of the apartment where AVANATH Capital Management is being prosecuted for the amplification of train, which criminally interferes with quiet enjoyment for the people of the state that come onto AVANATH's property to engage in a sex offense with AVANATH. All of those that are acting with impunity, the more you hear that train activity, the ongoing documentation of the fake sun, the maintenance of engineered light inside and outside, the people of the state at Woodside are going to prison. Okay, by virtue of that impossible light activity and strangers coming onto the grounds, monitoring while I am documenting on video. This is what the state is communicating to the feds, that they will continuously engage in domestic terrorism. 8GEN 638 being prosecuted for malice and impunity while that ongoing amplified audible activity, while they're engaging in a sex offense. A community worshiping my genitalia, evidence through what is light that is not the product of sunlight. Okay, it's shade. You have the gate that's appearing in the pattern of sunlight on the sidewalk. And on the inside of the apartment, you have what is light that you see on the living room floor appearing. AVANATH Capital Management's license plate 9CZC059, they're monitoring. That's why AVANATH Capital Management is going to be civilly and criminally prosecuted as well, because their employees and their residents are gang stalking. And this is a fake sun that stays over the same building well after 3:30 p.m. where you see the demon in number 42 on her walker under the fake sun, gang stalking with the city of Ontario. Okay, and that is the admission of the entity that monitors you through impossible audible activity, in the same way that they monitor you through impossible light activity, and in the impossible environment where a sun remains over one apartment building, and it's never in Los Angeles, which is what my documentation shows, however. And that's how you know that everybody in units 33 through 64, they're all going to prison. This is P.O.C. Alrighty, this is documentation of that specific environment, and the amplification of that train activity is evidence of what is impunity. The state is still monitoring while I document evidence, and the federal government is going to prosecute based on that impunity. And this is, again, as I showed you, what is shade underneath and engineered light that's manifesting out of nowhere into the depths of the apartment. And while I'm on the couch in operation of my communication device, engineered light moves across the ceiling, and that's what prompted me to go outside and get that sex offender's license plate. Okay, this is P.O.C. This is the pattern of conduct. This is what Innovage engaged in yesterday, as I document at 10:07 in the morning. 2 hours from now, that means, in other words, the fake sun is still over the same apartment building. That's how you know what that demon is doing, monitoring. Okay, this is the entity that is maintaining presence as a community at a specific environment that's maintained at an apartment complex, where that apartment complex is going to be prosecuted. This apartment complex is practicing what the entire state of California practices, and it's shown through what is the specific environment that is the fake sun that remains over me wherever I'm at. That's how I have what is at the same time a light source that's supposed to appear as the sun, but it's not the sun. The evidence suggests that there's more than one sun, and that defies nature. Understanding the malice of the state of California that is gang stalking American citizens, and now at this point, at this juncture in evidence, the state of California is admitting to be a sex offender, admitting to be a stalker, and engaging in, and also admitting to be mentally unstable, while psychopaths that are now surrounded by evidence continuously stalk and monitor me. Where you live and you're monitoring, you're stalking where you live. That's how the facts work. That's the reality of what it is. You don't have any constitutionally protected right to monitor somebody where you live. You're going to prison. This is impossible light that you still see in the midst of the afternoon. It has nothing to do with the fake sun that's on the opposite side of this building outside. That's not the product of sunlight. Neither is this the product of sunlight reaching into the depths, in through the shade, through closed blinds at that, underneath what is a covered structure, and that's the concentrated light there. That's the identification of stalkers, okay? That's P.O.C. It's a pattern of conduct that I'm documenting. It's 8:11 a.m. This is the documentation of a perpetual sex offense that AVANATH Capital Management, corporately speaking, commercially speaking, is civilly and criminally liable for. It's also quiet enjoyment criminally interfered with, while a population monitors a woman and worships her genitalia inside of a private space, which sex offenders surrounding are sharing in that sexual escapade together, absent my consent. Okay, so it is currently, again, 8:12 a.m. This is P.O.C. I want you to see this fake sun. Well, this is what all the population does. They're gang stalking all day long and all night long at Woodside Senior Apartments. This is P.O.C. It's currently Saturday, February 22nd, 2025. It's 8:26 a.m. This is a screen recording, just providing an ongoing example regarding showing you, helping there be a greater understanding regarding what is already proven, the fact that a supernatural environment surrounds me. The supernatural environment that surrounds me is evidence of what is stalking that a government is engaged in, that the government would ordinarily refer to as what would be surveillance, where the government is keeping you under surveillance, is invading your privacy. When they are surrounded with legal authority to do so, it is called surveillance. It is called that which is done pursuant to a warrant, pursuant to a probable cause, pursuant to some ongoing lawful investigation. That's not what the state is doing. And when the state is engaging in this conduct outside of the bounds of the Constitution, of the law, the state is stalking. Okay. And the state is stalking also maliciously in concert with an entire population. And this entire population that the government is a part of is demon possessed. And that is what is significant about the supernatural aspect of the pattern of conduct, where you are readily identifying that pattern of conduct. You are recognizing it. It is providing probable cause to investigate the state based on the specific environment, the supernatural character of the environment where the entity is stalking an American citizen. And the government is stalking an American citizen in furtherance of an ongoing conspiracy to kill that person. They're not just stalking them for funsies. They're not just doing it to learn something about the person and then will let them continue living their life. They're not just doing so in order to cause a minor disruption and harass them a little bit, see how they act under those circumstances, and then go on to the next experiment. The government is stalking American citizens in concert with a population because the government is conspiring to murder this person and doing so in concert even through the people, which is the same entity that is murdering people together, whom they are stalking and monitoring together. Monitoring is that which is demonic. A human being is not monitoring. A human being that is demon possessed is monitoring. You are prosecuting the physical, not the spiritual. So you will prosecute what is criminal monitoring, a sex offense, through stalking that human beings commit knowingly and intentionally and obsessively. That's what you're prosecuting in courts, where the demon possessed are practicing witchcraft and they are surrounding in a demonic environment, which is also proven through tangible evidence in order to prosecute what is public corruption. The high organized crime that the states are practicing, targeting American citizens, it is domestic terrorism and it is psychological torture, a program of psychological torture where the demon possessed seek to systematically break down an American citizen in order to expose them to circumstances where they may be more efficiently, more easily killed, which is murder. Psychological torture by the state, that is gang stalking, is analogous to, it is sufficient evidence of malice aforethought. There is no accident upon gang stalking. It is reasonable that there shall be a loss of life when the state is gang stalking. Okay, so the entity is doing this, and that's what's relevant. I started this video right now with regard to what I just documented yesterday. Corrupt businesses such as Innovage and the moving company, gang stalking with this same elderly, sex-offending, demon-possessed gang stalker in unit number 42. And if you haven't noticed already, this is an African-American woman. This gang stalking system is based on the spiritual. It's not based on the physical, meaning she's a black woman who is gang stalking me, a younger black woman. It has nothing to do with age either. She's not targeting me because I'm younger than her. Now, I want to be clear in the physical, these demon-possessed people are very much envious. They're very much insecure. They very much suffer from inferiority complexes, but you have witnessed the evidence of what is not based on race. There are African-American gang stalking police officers, African-American gang stalking sheriff's deputies, African-American gang stalking pilots, and you're looking at African-American gang stalking neighbors, if you will, the people of the state. My quote unquote fake family, my demon possessed relatives, they're African American. Okay. The UPS guy, the mailman, the entity, they're filled with black folks that also like to claim that Black Lives Matter on the news when they're creating a distracting narrative regarding what's actually happening in California. Okay. This has nothing to do with race. The entity is engaging in a pattern of conduct, and this is what Innovage was engaged in yesterday in the specific environment. And this is why you have at 8:07 in the morning. Today is on the bottom is what you'll see I captured today earlier. This is moments ago. It's currently again 8:31 a.m. And so this is a screen recording, which I always use for further analysis, analytical purposes, ongoing corroborating evidence, proving what I've already proven. Okay, reiterating what I've already established and what I said years ago is the case, and I have proven through evidence that it is the case, and it is relevant that you be reminded about what has been proven. The fact that the environment is a supernatural one is evidence of what is stalking by people who never intended on being caught stalking, because you don't know them by name, because you've never been to that particular address before, because you know them by name. They're your relatives of them, or you go to school at that location, or they live at the current location. These are all the false premises upon which federal group stalking and monitoring resides. and they're all false premises, and it's all legally irrelevant. It's demonic. It's, in other words, in federal court, it's malicious. Okay, so the entity has a fake sun, as you'll see at Woodside Senior Apartments. This is the fake sun that stays over this same apartment building. This is the apartment number 41, if you will, the first floor. This is apartment number 41 as I'm at the edge, as I walk to the edge of the parking lot. This is at 8:06 in the morning. This is what you see yesterday at the top. This is what I was giving a screen recording capturing the fake sun, which is 2 hours away from what I captured yesterday. Oh, today at 8 o'clock, 8:06 specifically. And yesterday, at the same apartment building, you are looking at this fake sun that's over the same apartment building. As I walk to the extremity of the same location, I walk to the parking lot to document the license plates of Innovage and the black truck with the New Jersey license plate. And you see the fake sun remain over me as I walk to the same location, the end of the sidewalk, where nearest apartment 41, where the fake sun removes nearest apartment 41. This is 2 hours later. Okay. If you're not clear on how the natural environment works, the sun that is, there's only one thus far as Satan, excuse me, not to Satan. Satan hasn't exposed. I'm exposing what Satan is doing as far as science. All right. Satan's minions that tell us about what's going on in the environment, things that are totally insufficient with regard to what I've exposed of how this light source behaves, and farcical doctrines such as the explanation regarding, as you would refer to, the sun and it's getting hotter, and the change in the environment, whatnot, the change in the atmosphere based on things that we're doing like pollution and whatnot. And I'm not going to sit here and state that the way that we treat the earth is irrelevant with regard to our taking care of that which has been literally gifted to us. Creation itself. We shouldn't be putting garbage in the ocean. You shouldn't be littering, all that, but this has nothing to do with the fake sun that's sitting idle all day long. Okay. This has nothing to do with a lot of the farcical doctrines that I'm not going to reference because you are aware of them. Okay. Daylight savings time is absolutely irrelevant with regard to the specific environment. These are ideas, these are rules, these are things that are conditioning our mindset, that are, while we are literally blind to what surrounds us, and it's right in front of your face as well. Okay, so I just want to be clear. This has nothing to do with the ozone getting smaller because we're polluting, and this is demonic. It defies nature, and it has been present for a very long time. This is something that I am now proving through tangible evidence, but this is not new. It didn't just start in, as a matter of my documentation, in 2018. That's not when this started. That's not when you've been surrounded by a fake sun. That's not when it started because when I started documenting it. All right. So I just want to be clear on that. But what you see here is capturing evidence against Innovage, which is a corrupt business engaged in federal stalking. Innovage is documented engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring, and is therefore criminally liable for all of the pattern of conduct that the state practices. And Innovage, through its business name, came and facilitated that criminal activity, as I documented 2 hours later than what I'm documenting today. The fake sun being over me at the edge as I walk toward the parking lot, and I'm capturing the fake sun over the same apartment building, number 41 on the first floor. And this is what I documented at the top. What you see here, as I'm comparing it to what you see at the top, is that on the February 21st, 2024 at 10 o'clock in the morning, I'm documenting the environment at Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles over me, and at Woodside Senior Apartments in Ontario over me. And today I'm comparing what you see with this fake sun at the same position, and there's a 2-hour difference with regard to the maintenance of this fake sun that moves, by the way, as I move. Because while I am also at the front door, this is where the fake sun is not over this edge of that apartment building. It's not over on this side. You see it here. You see there's no fake sun here right now until I walk down there. You'll see it at this edge of the apartment building as I walk out. It's at this edge of the apartment building. This is nearest apartment number 44. Okay. The fake sun moves as I move, as I walk to the edge of the, toward the parking lot. This is where the fake sun moves to be over me as I document. This is exactly what Innovage was engaging in yesterday. Pacing in the parking lot with the two trucks, the truck that was honking, you could see the fake sun reflecting off of the window. It's not in Los Angeles, in other words, over my front door, which I will show you at the same time. I started this video today at 8:06 in the morning. At 8:07 in the morning in Los Angeles, the fake sun is over my front door in Los Angeles, California at Alvarado Gardens. All right, but you're seeing it reflecting off of the third party's vehicle in the parking lot of Woodside Senior Apartments, which, by the way, what you see at the top, it's over, in order to be in a position reflecting off of that vehicle's window, it's right over the top of it. This is not rocket science. And you see it as it is not over this building when I'm at the front door. But as I walk away from the front door toward the parking lot, there it is. Okay, this is not where it was while I'm looking out of the front door and I'm looking outside of the front door. It is not over that edge of the building. So let's look at it again. This is called stalking with a fake sun, the evidence of a population that is stalking. They are the demon possessed as well, and they are engaged in a program of psychological torture, which AVANATH Capital Management shall be civilly and criminally prosecuted for. Okay? The population is gang stalking me, and that's the significance of stepping outside and showing you the evidence of what is a fake sun moving in real time. The evidence of those who are in my path are also stalking. That demon doesn't have to be in the vehicle in order to document the fact that they're stalking. They're all stalking at Woodside Senior Apartments. And the fake sun remains over me in alignment at Woodside Senior Apartments for the criminal purposes of demons who know exactly what I'm doing inside of the apartment. They know exactly the moment when I'm inside of even the bathroom, and they want to then engage in what is their ritualistic stalking conduct because of their worship of my genitalia. And they're doing so as I document 8GEN 638. Now, this is going to be published on the podcast. You're witnessing me narrate the demonic, which is criminal evidence against a state government that's going to be prosecuted by the federal government. And like I said, no demon-possessed state entity is going to tell the federal government that it's going to cease engaging in domestic terrorism. The state of California is demon-possessed. That's why they're gang stalking, and they are delusional psychopaths, and they're violent sex offenders. And I'm documenting the fact that the state refuses to stop stalking me, refuses to stop psychologically targeting me, refuses to stop harassing and terrorizing me. And that's also a part of the ways in which it's going to be prosecuted. And it includes the demon possessed in units 33 through 64 at Woodside Senior Apartments, where I'm capturing that which defies nature, which has nothing to do with the demise of the, hold on, let me show you the fake sun in the image. With the demise of the ozone layer. This has nothing to do with daylight savings time. These are rules, by the way. However, I have abided by these farcical ideas regarding daylight savings time for further evidence showing you how irrelevant it is, because it's not the sun, it's not the natural environment. And 2 hours from now, as I captured this video at 8:06 this morning, and this is the evidence which you see over the same building 2 hours from this video that I captured at 8:06. This was captured at 10 o'clock, 10:40, more than 2.5 hours, where the demon in unit number 42, an African-American demon-possessed gang-stalking sex offender over the age of 55, relying on the government to pay her rent while she's engaged in domestic terrorism. And this old woman has the audacity to act with impunity while she knows she's being documented. That impunity is a matter of video evidence, because all I have to do is get video, video that I already have, but I have so much, and the entity is engaged in a pattern that there's no other way for it to engage in it. I can just go 24 hours the next day and get the fake sun, 2 hours over the same apartment building where you are looking at the malice of the elderly gang stalking me. As though anything other, while you empty your apartment and put all your belongings into a moving truck, your demon's under a fake sun and an engineered light, and you are obsessively gang stalking me. That's what she was doing yesterday, and that's what she's doing. And she does it on a walker, and she represents an entity. And any demon on a walker, any demon on a bicycle, any demon on roller skates, any demon driving a school bus, any demon driving a police vehicle, flying in planes and helicopters, you will be prosecuted the same. They are domestic terrorists. And they are acting in furtherance of the conspiracy by the state to murder and kidnap American citizens in the state of California. All right. And what is comparable to the sky space in Florida, I will continue to use as an example, because this 2 hour difference, you're talking about what would be 11 o'clock in Florida. That which is remaining over Woodside Senior Apartments is not in Florida. So this is speaking to what is probable cause for the feds to investigate any state government upon allegations of federal group stalking and monitoring, where the unsophisticated target individual would describe strangers stalking them, strangers attacking them, strangers having their information, the government harassing them, which they don't understand. The strangers that are stalking them, it is the government. All right. So I want to make clear that this is the evidence that I'm documenting, and this is comparable to what you saw yesterday. Innovage, a corrupt government actor, not operating as a private business. Even working for, affiliated with San Bernardino County. San Bernardino County is fully exposed as a domestic terrorist, okay? A kidnapper, engaged in criminal defamation, gang stalkers working at every San Bernardino County, which is a state facilitating venue. And they're doing so as I highlight what is the fake sun that they're gang stalking me under. All right. They're doing so while I'm comparing that which is the specific environment in Los Angeles, California. That's the significance of the February 21st, 2024 image at 10:07 a.m. Okay. And as I capture this same exact picture of what you saw yesterday at 2 hours earlier at 8:07, it is the evidence that is putting everybody in federal prison in units 33 through 64. And this, what Woodside Senior Apartments is doing, is evidence that the state government is still keeping me under surveillance. And is still engaging in what is sexual violence, still obsessed with my genitalia, still spending thousands and thousands on a daily basis. That's why Paul Leon is being removed from office. That's why. Okay? Paul Leon is not the only corrupt mayor in the state of California that is gang stalking. That is a domestic terrorist leader. All right. And the entity is doing so as you are looking at the fake sun that's remaining over the apartment complex, over me, in other words, in this manner, over the top of my head, and then remaining over me as I walk back to the apartment. The entity amplifying train activity, that's under the guise, that's impossible audible activity, as impossible as the sun being over the same position over the apartment over me 2 hours earlier than it was yesterday. As impossible that the sun would be over Alvarado Gardens in the same manner at the same time, let alone doing the same thing at Woodside Senior Apartments in Ontario 2 hours earlier. As impossible as it is also impossible to hear the train inside of the apartment and also outside at that distance. And the fact that it's documented is criminal activity against the state. And the time that the people of the state are going to sit in federal prison is relevant. That's psychological torture. Understand it's not just some, well, so what about the train activity? Well, I'll tell you what about the train activity. It's audible activity while you are being molested with engineered light in an entirely circus environment, which is traumatic for the ordinary target individual that is being shown through, you're looking at the fact that the state is stalking you as you are subjected to that environment on a daily basis. And the sound of the train activity is an ongoing psychological means of torturing and being reminded. And it is also bold evidence created by the state while you document the state stalking you. The state has the audacity to continuously gang stalk you on video. It is relevant to impunity and malice. It is psychologically harmful. It is an impermissible threat. And it is that which is going to be used against every single last one that's subject to prison for it. That's what matters about the train activity. And it defies nature. It's demonic. All right. This is relevant to that impossible light activity that you see. And as I walk back toward the apartment, you will see that fake sun stroll back to be back in position as well. What you are looking at with regard to this specific environment, this is relevant to, again, I just wanted to make sure that you are aware of this because this is what you saw while the people of the state were gang stalking me as I started this video. And the demons in Unit 42, they remain engaged in pacing, gang stalking with the people coming onto the grounds with the demons that are gang stalking me on a 24-hour basis. These are admitted sex offenders. All right, that engage in the P.O.C. and where there is no there's no like coinciding narrative, you are gang stalking, period. And this level of impunity that I continuously document, this desperation, in other words, because that's what they are. They're demons that are desperate, and they're demons that are surrounded by evidence. And I'm documenting your license plate. I'm gathering your images. You're going to be prosecuted for that. All right, this is what the ordinary target individual suffers in silence with no evidence, no ability to legally analyze and assess what my rights are versus the state that thinks it's going to bully you and then murder and kidnap you, falsely depict you as some criminal or mentally deranged in doing so and making any kind of allegations against them. So this is what is relevant about what I'm documenting yesterday. And as I'm documenting this video again at 8:06 a.m., I want you to witness also what is further evidence of what is not the natural environment as what I documented on February 21st, 2024. Today is February 22nd, 2025. This is the fake sun that's over my front door. As I open my front door at 8:07 a.m., preparing to walk downstairs to my job at the same Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles at 1800 to 1818 North Alvarado Street in Los Angeles, California, 90026. This is nowhere near being over the roof of the apartment where this fake sun remains over this same apartment building, specifically over units 33 through 48 from the beginning until the end of the day. And if you're unclear about that, I will go ahead and show you that this is exactly where the fake sun remains until the end of the day on a daily basis, where I am documenting the fake sun that is also setting an alignment to me outside of this same patio glass door that I'm looking at this morning as I walk outside to that parking lot. And this is the glass door that I'm looking out this morning. All right. And as I look outside of that glass door, this is what I'm looking out of. This is where the fake sun is setting an alignment to me. 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4:55, that's 9 hours later. That's not the natural environment. This is the evidence of an apartment complex engaged in gang stalking with the state of California for the criminal purposes of an entire population that comes onto the grounds to participate in this stalking by an entity, which is a massive sex offense. Okay? And they're doing so while I am showing evidence of what is where the fake sun rises and sets, where the entity is keeping a fake sun over me at one apartment, and is also monitoring all the evidence as I continuously gather that. While this is what I'm observing, this is the evidence of what's above, what I documented at the same time of year, same time of day. And this is over my head as I stand outside of my front door. To be clear, this is what's the light activity inside of my apartment. So where the sun is over Alvarado Gardens at this time at 8:06 in the morning until 8:12. Okay, this is the light activity. The light activity inside of my apartment in Los Angeles is supposed to be the product of the sun, and it's not. It exists apart from what is the light source itself. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's not the sun, such that it's not the natural environment. Neither is this sunlight. And I've also shown you that in the absence of the light source, for example, over my in my apartment in Los Angeles, I very heavily documented engineer light on the ceiling inside of my bedroom. Inside of this apartment at Woodside Senior Apartments in Ontario, the engineer light that frames the front door on the inside of that's not the product of sunlight. It has nothing to do with the fake sun that's outside. That impossible light that's on the inside of the apartment, that's what's covering everything. This is not sunlight. This is not sunlight. This is a criminal surveillance that is underway by the state of California, and you are surrounded by an entirely demonic environment. The fake sun is the evidence, the reality of Satan, who is a spirit. Okay? His unintelligent effort to mimic that which God has created. God did not create there being thousands of suns over everyone in the United States. This is the work of Satan. And it is the evidence of surveillance by a corrupt government that's filled with the demon-possessed, who are studying those who belong to Christ, studying and stalking. Okay? And this is the evidence through what is the unnatural environment. And I want to be clear, when you're looking at this light source that's remaining, because I want to go back toward the apartment 51 where I remain. This is where the fake sun remains all day long. Right? While you're looking at this is the light activity inside of my apartment in 2024 on February 21st, 2024 at 8:05 a.m. All right, this is impossible light activity that's manifesting again. This is another iteration of the same system of stalking with light, pursuing with light, following with light. That's the identification of a group stalker. All right, so outside of my front door, this is where I'm capturing this. This is the fake sun that's outside. You can see this light source here being outside. This is a covered structure above, but I'm showing you the impossible light activity that fills my apartment. And I'm identifying those who are in the path in the same way that the demon in the parking lot is gang stalking, while impossible light activity, like I described in my video captured this morning at 8:06 a.m., engineer light sweeping across the ceiling on the inside of the apartment. It's not enough that engineer light sits on the blinds on the inside of the apartment, that I'm being molested with engineer light that illuminates the inside of the apartment, that engineer light is streaming through the peephole, that engineer light streams across the ceiling, framing the front door. The demons are coming onto the property and doing so while engineer light sweeps across the ceiling. That's terrorism via directed light. And it's the evidence of demons who are stalking. And they're stalking with the population that comes onto AVANATH Capital Management's property. AVANATH Capital Management is corrupt and shall be civilly and criminally prosecuted for what's going on the inside of its apartments while it's profiting, and its employees are stalking, and its property is the grounds for stalking by the state in furtherance of murder and kidnapping. You don't have any protected business rights. You don't, and you're going to be prosecuted for it. All right. This is where the entity is keeping the fake sun at 8:06. This is the light activity inside of my apartment.
Having no constitutional
in Los Angeles.
Whatsoever, no legal protection from federal prosecution, from group stalking with a public entity, and also with the state that has been acting directly, the Los Angeles Police Department. This is that corrupt system of.
So I want you to see.
Just moving. It's very, very demonic when you are looking at the behavior of this light. It coats the environment around you and it drags itself. I'm giving you an illustration so you can understand the demented environment that you're surrounded by for a criminal purpose, no legitimate purpose whatsoever, no warrant, no probable cause. It's serving a criminal system by a public entity, and this is serving.
So I just want to be clear. You're looking at my shadow that's upright on my third floor apartment at apartment 1806 North Alvarado Street in Los Angeles, California. The blinds are closed in the living room. Engineered light is stretching into the depths of that of my living room. My shadow, as you can see as I walk through that engineered light, that's so that sex offenders that are monitoring and stalking can molest me with engineered light. That's it. That's an integral aspect of this surveillance system is the engineered light. And Satan has engaged in what is keeping all of us under surveillance in an entirely circus-like environment. That's not the sun over your head, nor is that sunlight that coats everything. When you are under the impression and have been conditioned to think that that's the sun and everything, where you see the sun, oh, well, that's sunlight, and it's not. And you can also see that as I document this peculiar light that creates magnified size of shadows like that which is inside of my apartment as I'm walking in it. That is constructive presence of the state. The state has no warrant or probable cause to keep me under surveillance. And you know that it is the state because they're also stalking me in helicopters like I documented the LAPD engaging in. And it's not a coincidence. This is exactly what the Ontario Police Department engaged in before I relocated to Los Angeles. And as I come back from Los Angeles, that's still what the Ontario Police Department continuously engages in. That's why demons like Jason Knighton are going to federal prison for years for the documented impunity and malice.
Monitor you, all right? This is the pattern of conduct, the same engineered light that covers the whole property, Alvarado Gardens, and then the entity suggests that sunlight appearing on the ship or the windows is also
through blinds that are closed. This engineered light that's coming through, I want you to see that over here on the side, through the front door, reaching into the depths. Go back, sorry. Reaching into the depths.
You can understand the demented environment that you're surrounded by.
I want you to see that.
Covering into the depths of my apartment.
Into the depths of the apartment. That's impossible light activity. That's impossible light activity. This is what you see when I open up the front door at here in Woodside Senior Apartments. That's not the product of sunlight. And so this is what you're paying attention to, and it's recognizing how the system of surveillance works. Light being present. This is light that's manifesting in the shade. But as I open the front door, this is what you are paying attention to, as I've documented it plenty of times. Hold on. You can't hear it. Hold on.
And I want to document inside, engineered light strolling across the ceiling. And as you can see here, engineered light is shooting into the depths of the apartment. This is coming what is underneath a covered patio. There's a demon stalking the path out here. The engineered light is coexisting with there being present in the parking lot. This is what, again, the Mazda MARMMAK is doing under the fake sun.
Okay, so in this video, I'm reciting what prompted my attention as I'm opening the front door, and I'm showing you the engineered light that's manifesting under a covered patio. So that is the absence of anything that has to do with this light here through what is also closed blinds. And then you've got the supernatural light that is appearing on the inside of an apartment where the structure of the structure ordinarily provides for what would be shade, and also shade through what would be blinds. So not only is it necessarily when you're logically going to follow, well, if light is appearing on the floor, then that means that it would have to bounce underneath at an angle to appear underneath an extended structure to keep sun out. That's why we have things like patio covers and roofs that extend over to create shade. Covering walkways, it's for shade. That's what those things are for. And so logic dictates that where you have a covered structure, sunlight is being blocked off. Sunlight is not that which is doing all manner of gymnastics, reaching at an angle underneath, and doing so also. You're talking about not only the patio structure outside of this patio, but then also the building itself coming into through the frame of the patio glass door on the floor through the blinds that are closed. And then it's at a distance away. So I want you to look at this light activity again. It's at a distance away from the, at a distance away from the blinds. So you can see that. And it is relevant because I'm breaking this light activity down so that you could see how ridiculous, how asinine it is. The demonic is right in front of your face, and it's something that you should open your eyes to. Not to obsess over. If it's something that you don't understand, that's fine. That's why you have people like me to break it down for you. It is something, though, that you can see when you are looking at the evidence of what's remaining over me for the duration of the day. That in and of itself, because of the exclusivity of the sun, that's how you know right there, even if your mind cannot wrap yourself around the things that I'm explaining to you, that's not the natural environment as you see the sun over you in the sky space in whatever state that you're in. Okay. So, oops, I want you to see this light activity. It's appearing at a distance away from the blinds, and then you're looking at what is a patio structure that covers. That is speaking to all manner of impossible light activity. And as I walked outside, and as I walked outside, you can see the shade where there is no light that would be the explaining what that light activity is appearing on the inside. And even so, the patio structure is what it is designed for, to keep sun away from being underneath. You could sit in the shade, in other words. Not only is that speaking to the impossibility that light would be there, but then it's reaching underneath. This is a door frame right here. It's reaching underneath, doing gymnastics to be inside of the apartment, underneath the patio structure and on the inside of the apartment on the floor. Okay. That's speaking to the impossibility. That's the demonic. Literally what you see with your eyes with regard to this light, it is the evidence of the existence of the demonic. That which you are looking at and merely attributing to what is physical, meaning sunlight from the sun, is actually spiritual. It's impossible light activity. It's the demonic. Okay. And it is with regard to the criminal. It's evidence of criminal surveillance. That's stalking by the state. That's surveillance. And it's also occurring on your communication devices. It's occurring everywhere that you're going. All right. And so this is breaking down the illusion that there's public property where you have a right to be. No, you don't. No, you don't. And it is aiding the government in murdering and kidnapping people, and no one ever knowing what is actually going on. And it starts with enforcing your rights under laws that as they exist. And that's all I'm doing. The way that the laws exist now, the government does even the way that laws exist. And they're practicing the demonic. They're practicing witchcraft. I'm prosecuting Satan under the laws as they exist now. Okay, this is what you're witnessing, but I want to be clear. I have documented plenty of times as I open the front door and engineer light appears on the inside of the apartment door, which is impossible light activity. Like, here you go. Okay, this is what I'm capturing on an ongoing basis at 8:09 in the morning. Engineer light is appearing, stretching through. You see it on the bags. You see it stretching. And this is my shadow. This is the shadow of the metal mesh door. It's diagonal on the blinds. This is all manner of impossible light activity. This is captured at 8:09 in the morning. The entity engages in all manner of inconsistent light activity as I document. The more that I scrutinize the idiocy with this light, the more variations that you witness. And I want to be clear. Consistency with impossible light activity is equally criminal. It's equally evidence of gang stalking. Inconsistency with this impossible light activity is more corroborating evidence regarding what is under no circumstances becoming natural, becoming that which is anything other than probable cause. You will never make a natural environment out of an idle fake sun all day long, no matter how detailed. But these demons are, it's not. Satan is not all knowing. Satan is not a genius. He's not. Okay, Satan is a spirit and Satan is using people. Satan is using a lot of people to target one person. And this one person is prosecuting. And I even go to the extent to scrutinize. And you can do that through the evidence. And that's why I show you, oh, what was happening on this day and on this year, same time of year, even down to same time of day. Let's isolate it to the same venue at the same time. What's going on at that same venue, at that same location at a later time? And you will understand and witness what is under all circumstances defying common sense, highly unintelligent, what is obvious for the prosecution of the state of California. Because what they're usually doing with this absence of high intelligence, all they do is murder people and kidnap them who never have a chance and opportunity to speak to what they were surrounded by, what they were targeted by. Okay, that's what's so threatening about being surrounded by idiots who are gang stalking you. It's very much a threat to your life. All right, the entity is doing this while the entity is keeping a fake sun over me. I want you to look at this again. This is the pattern of conduct that I'm showing in Los Angeles while I open my front door and engineer light is stretching, just appearing on the living room floor on the inside. That's what I want to get back to, but I like to keep so you can Pay attention to what you're looking at as I go back to apartment 51. This is engineer light stretching on the inside of my apartment as I open the front door. Okay, go back.
The depths of my impossible light activity, sunlight like a laser is shooting.
There's a covered patio here. Okay, this creates for shade. Then you have the inexplicable presence of light that's just appearing on the inside. This is the things you're paying attention to. That's demonic. That's impossible light activity. It is the evidence of criminal surveillance. These are the things you're paying attention to when you have probable cause to investigate the allegations of someone stating strangers are stalking them, strangers are attacking them, strangers are following them around, the government is harassing them, they've been accused of things, of the inexplicable and unjust treatment by the state that's, for example, trying to frame them for things that they did not commit in the face of evidence that they are disregarding in order to accomplish that criminal objective. This is the entity that is gang stalking.
Underneath a covering into the depths of my apartment.
This is the light that's just appearing in the middle of the floor. This is the P.O.C. That's engineer light, stalking with light. And it's a sex offense while it's happening where you live. And it's evidence of an entire population monitoring you inside of a private space. People that have kids, people that have spouses, people that have public positions in office, and they're violent sex offenders worshiping the genitalia of the one that they're monitoring. That's how you know all of that by the virtue of impossible light activity. And this light activity is that which defies nature while the sun is sitting over me at the same time in Ontario, California at Woodside Senior Apartments at 408 West G Street in Ontario, California, 91762, I believe is the zip code. All right, and this is 1806 North Alvarado Street in Los Angeles, California, inside of my apartment. And all I did was then I walked downstairs to my job where the entity kept the fake sun over me all day long. And this is the prosecution of the state of California, but this is the documentation where I show you the fake sun that's over the top of my head at this same apartment complex where I also worked, where the entity was gang stalking in helicopters all day. And as I went back to my apartment all night, criminal interference with quiet enjoyment, where a bunch of demons were collecting welfare because they can't even pay their rent. They're all going to prison as well. Okay, this is the entity that relies on a corrupt population to engage in a sex offense and keeping you under surveillance in doing so. That's the significance of what I documented today at 8:06 a.m. And this being while the fake sun is remaining over my front door in Los Angeles on February 21st, 2024, as I capture the same time of year, same maintenance of a light source, which could not possibly be the sun. All right, that's the P.O.C. by the state of California. It is currently 9:04 a.m. This is P.O.C. All right, this is the same demon gang stalking you. 42. She is going to prison. She's stalking in the path with a method of peculiarized light while she's pacing around her vehicle. And the demon in 55 is stalking as I move around in the kitchen with the ongoing amplification of loud booming. This is monitoring, and this is how you're recognizing a sex offense that's underway as you recognize the pattern of conduct by the entity that surrounds the outside of the building. This is a sex offender 8FVB068. This is the African American you saw gang stalking into the fake sun at 10 o'clock in the morning. All right, you saw it the same thing over the building at 8 o'clock in the morning, and this is the P.O.C. This is an act of retaliation, which she's going to prison for as well. The demons know that they're being documented, and they engage in that P.O.C. This is what the police department is engaging in with her. That's why she's going to prison. You see that? She's going to prison. All right, this is while the fake sun is over. This is what thousands of dollars is used to monitor my genitalia. This is why Mike Lorenz is done with law enforcement. This is why Paul Leon is out of office. These exposed sex that encourage criminal conduct. It's not a coincidence that I'm documenting this demon who's going to prison and the police arrive under the fake sun. This is P.O.C. And they're monitoring my genitalia inside of a private space. This is an African-American, bald-headed, elderly woman who's going to prison and who was hostile and engages in a criminal act of retaliation that the state commits with her. Okay, Unit 55 is engaged in what is amplified audible activity. AVANATH Capital Management is being civilly and criminally prosecuted for what its residents and for what the government is doing with them at a property where surveillance is underway. All right, that's P.O.C. That's why the Ontario Police is being disbanded as well. That's why she's going to prison. 8FVB068. While the fake sun does the same thing that you saw at 8:06 this morning. That's how you know that the police are stalking. The police are stalking through demons that live at a crime scene where there is no sun over Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles, which is where I was on this day in 2024. This is the same exact position where the fake sun was at 8:06 a.m. She's going to prison. All right, she lives in Unit 42. She was gang stalking via Innovage by the demons that came and emptied out her furniture, and doing so as I am documenting video. They were waiting in the path just like the police were waiting in the path, and the police incriminate her. She can move wherever she wants because the long arm of the federal law is going to drag her to prison. That's where she's going. All right, and so is everybody in units 33 through 64 while she engages in psychological torture with the police. That's why she's also going to prison, and so are they. So are they. So is Linda Reyes going to federal prison. You're looking at the evidence that's putting her in prison, and so is the demons that work for AVANATH Capital Management. It is currently 11:42 where the fake sun's in the same position where it was at 8:06 in the morning. And this is the stationary presence of a light source where a society is engaged in surveillance together. There's sex offenders that worship my genitalia. Whether they're black, whether they're over 55, you're also witnessing a psychopath still engaging in that pattern of conduct. And she knows she's going to prison because she heard me. Whether she believes it or not, she cannot hide. She's going to prison. And the entity that is gang stalking through the police, like Mike Lawrence was doing well before he took that position of chief of police, this is exactly what Derek Williams was engaged in. Mike Lorenz and everybody affiliated with the Ontario Police are done with law enforcement, while domestic terrorism and the ongoing contribution to public corruption and sexual violence. This is all in violation of the Violence Against Women Act. And that's why they're all losing their housing benefits as well. License 8FVB 068, and this is impunity that's attributed to the entire entity, everyone that's going to prison, and everyone in all 144 units at Woodside who are being prosecuted for gang stalking, which is in violation of 34 U.S.C. section 12291. They're pacing while they're walking in the parking lot. Those are demons under the fake sun. They're stalking in plain sight, just like she is with Engineer Light. And they were monitoring me while I was in the kitchen, and the ongoing earthquake-like conduct, which the police who just flew over, providing evidence against the people, are using in order to keep me under surveillance. This is the prosecution of the state of California. And this is why everybody at Alvarado Gardens is going to prison, and everybody in units 33 through 64 are physically surrounding. Okay? You saw at 8 o'clock in the morning. It is 11. It's 11:44 and the fake sun's in the same position, and this is my shadow that's appearing on the ground while a demon stalks on the path with the method of light. And this particular demon from unit 42 knows that I document. This is the pattern that they engage in while you document them. So she goes in and she's engaging with psychological torture while the amplified earthquake-like fills the apartment, and a demon is monitoring. This is a psychopath over 55. She's going to prison. Okay? And so is this one. This is P.O.C. Engineer Light is shooting through the peephole. The fake sun is idle over the same building, and a massive sex offense is underway, which the police just confirmed. Okay? She's getting engaged in a little bit of gang stalking before she drives off. And this is the evidence speaking to what is the ongoing impunity that she acts with. Nobody gang stalking at any of the locations that I've ever documented are avoiding prison. And she is indeed going to prison while she is targeting with the police. And this is all criminal conduct that the entire property is engaging in together. Okay? This is P.O.C. That was Ontario Police with the third party from Unit 42. Gang stalking, criminal act of intimidation, and retaliation as I'm documenting her. Engineer Light moves across the brick wall while they're pacing on Vine Avenue, and she's driving out of the parking lot. All right, it is currently, again, 11:45 a.m. This is AVANATH Capital Management, Civil and Criminal Prosecution. All right, and this is the same entity worshiping my genitalia as the sex offenders that they are stalking at Woodside Senior Apartments. This is P.O.C. It is currently 11:54 a.m. on still the same date, Saturday, February 22nd, 2024. The entity is interfering with the operation of the television as a means of monitoring. This is interference with quiet enjoyment. This is, again, the ongoing constructive presence of the government inside of your private space, even controlling appliances and communication devices. All right, you can hear it restarting again. That's activity creation while you are aware of the engineered light that remains inside of this apartment. That's a means of monitoring, which is a sex offense committed by the same government that engaged in the admission to being sex offenders by stalking. Identified as stalking because I've captured the phenomenon of the fake sun being over the same apartment, unit number 41, at 8 o'clock in the morning, 8:06, at 10:40 in the morning, like I documented yesterday, and again at 11:40 in the morning over the same apartment. That's apartment number 41, filled with AVANATH Capital Management employee, the Latino male who readily provides just a gratuitous amount of evidence against himself and against the people of the state and the government. He's going to prison, and every other adult is going to prison inside of that apartment, and everyone inside of units 33 through 64 who are living under a fake sun and engaging in what is gang stalking in furtherance of murdering and kidnapping me, and doing so with impunity because they keep me under surveillance, they keep my devices under surveillance, and every bit of documentation which is evidence against the state of California, against a government that is engaging in this level of exposure, participating in their own exposure regarding the way that the American governments murder American citizens and do so when it's no longer a secret. And they do it in plain sight. That's the significance of seeing the helicopter flying over my head under a fake sun in Ontario, California, not by the Los Angeles Police Department under the fake sun at Alvarado Gardens, where the entity is keeping a fake sun, as I documented. The television is an ongoing means of flashing right now as I document. That is the same evidence of impunity, like the demon in unit number 42, who is, again, the subject of evidence that I specifically referenced today. This is speaking to the entity that engages in what is also obstruction of justice, engaging in acts of retaliation and intimidation, while this bald-headed elderly senior citizen, who happens to be a Negro, she's an African American, letting you know this has nothing to do with black people as a means of identity. This has to do with the demon possessed, who are obsessed psychopaths. And while she drives off the property and the Ontario police fly over the property, she is going to prison, and there is no aspect of anywhere that she can hide where she's avoiding federal law, who is going to yank her by her 2-inch hair and drag her into federal court, because she's going to federal prison for gang stalking me with the Ontario police, for worshiping my genitalia with the Ontario police, for threatening and seeking to obstruct justice and acting with impunity, continuously doing that with the Ontario police. And that's a significant of a corrupt police department that literally is an afterthought. The Ontario police are being disbanded, and they're permanently done with law enforcement. They are literally ongoing, they're accentuating the level of mental instability that's being captured while you are witnessing what is not a scary movie, but the demon possessed are real. They're not a matter of what is Hollywood flicks. The demon-possessed are currently targeting American citizens, and the demon-possessed make up the American government, and they make up the population in the state of California, targeting an American citizen who has exposed them. And now you're witnessing what is no longer hidden, the fact that they're psychopaths. They are absolute deranged and demented, and they are also willing to spend thousands and that equals millions and millions of dollars on worshiping my genitalia, and then trying to muzzle me from telling you the fact that they worship my genitalia. That's why you have a helicopter gang stalking, and you know that it's gang stalking and it's unlawful conduct by a corrupt police department, because no upright police department that is within the confines of the law is engaging in what is the concerted activity, criminally facilitating the elements of monitoring in an environment that is on its face a supernatural occurrence, and that be distinct and separate from what I've documented in conformity to a P.O.C. And the Ontario police, by the way, years of documentation that they're not doing anything other than criminal activity using helicopters, which is why they're going to be snatched out of those positions. And the demon that you see through the helicopter, that particular demon's going to prison. All right. But the entity, and like I said, the entity is going to produce itself. It's going to produce the identity of who, the particular government name of this sex offender that is stalking in a helicopter that was already present. Okay, they are already aware of what I'm doing as I do it, and based on what I say as I say it, what I'm doing as I do, and I'm exposing a demon over the age of 55. I'm pointing out to very pivotal aspects of the documentation, pointing out to things that are very damning that the demons don't like, and then you have the arrival of the helicopter, and you know that as a matter of evidence that's documented when you are aware of what is the methods of identifying demons that are targeting you, the timing with which they do whatever it is that they're doing when they are engaging in the elements of monitoring. And it's all happening under the phenomenon of a fake sun remaining over units 33 through 48, and that's how I'm able to also capture that fake sun over unit 41. Everyone in unit 41, in other words, is going to prison. That for at 8:06 in the morning, at 10:40 in the morning, like I documented yesterday, February 21st, 2025. And again, as I captured the Ontario police, who were gang stalking yesterday, and they were gang stalking today, before I captured them in helicopter gang stalking, so that the federal government and the rest of the world is not questioning, is the police actually engaged in this supernatural occurrence that an American citizen is exposing? And yes, they are. And if you paid attention to what I've been documenting for years, you already know that the Ontario police are entirely illegitimate, and they are, again, a pus-infected wound. They are a tragedy incidental to what is inherent public corruption throughout the state of California, what every police department is practicing. And it is not that which is designed to serve and protect. It is that which is designed to target and hone in on the demon-possessed, in other words, are engaged in law enforcement in California. They're demons. All right. They are getting by. And this is, again, a secret code, because you're dealing with the spiritual. So I want to be clear. Anytime, for example, that you have someone that's not demon possessed that gets onto the force, those are ones that they hire only to sacrifice them. I'm being very specific on what these demons practice. They would only hire one that's not serving Satan because they intend to sacrifice that person. This is the demon possessed, the practices of who are stalkers and sex offenders, and they use their weapons, they hide behind badges, and they hide behind the faces of the demon possessed, like the one in Unit 42, who is operating, let me read her license plate, who's going to prison, gang stalking with the Ontario Police. All right, doing so, license 8FYB068, and she is stalking in the path for a prolonged period in the parking lot with peculiarized light, that is the hazard lights. Where I've shown you the demon engaging in the same pattern of conduct, where this fake sun is over the same apartment complex. You can literally look at the video evidence, and amongst what the Ontario Police Department is doing, the Ontario Police were amplifying helicopter activity while the demon in Unit 55 was engaged in psychological torture, the ongoing amplification of this elderly person that has no job, that has the uncanny ability to follow my physical movement with earthquake-like conduct, and has the ability to cause the ceilings and the walls to crack. And it's so loud and substantial in that level of disruption that coexists with the equally disruptive impossible light activity that's molesting my person, literally following where I'm located inside of the apartment, while a fake sun remains stationary over the apartment building itself, and specifically over units 33 through 64. What I'm spelling out right now is the prosecution of AVANATH Capital Management for violating the Violence Against Women Act, and also for engaging in state surveillance with the police department who provided evidence against that corporate actor. But what I am spelling out is this same demon in Unit 42, stalking in the path with flashing lights. This is exactly what I was reciting, narrating regarding the demon. After 3 o'clock, it was 3:50, 4 o'clock in the evening, and this demon, license MARMMAK, this is the navy blue Mazda, stalking in the path with flashing lights, while the demons in units 49 through 64, they're the ongoing amplification of earthquakes and booming noises. Psychological torture is underway, while demons use flashing of lights, and its significance with regard to recognizing, monitoring the significance of the engineered environment. They're doing it under the fake sun that remains over Woodside, over a particular building at Woodside all day long, which is in alignment to me. They do it while I am moving around, and I'm subject to this ongoing interference with quiet enjoyment inside of the apartment, which is criminal, and it's serving a criminal purpose, while demons are always surrounded with a method of flashing light. Okay, it's also engaged in by the demons who are the people of the state in Ontario. That includes the corrupt governments. All they have to do is get in their own vehicles. They do so in ambulances and fire trucks and police vehicles as well. But I want to be clear, the entity, the population, engage in the same pattern, pacing in traffic, which is flashing of light conduct as well. They're creating light activity. In other words, they're moving all around under the fake sun. They're creating light activity, but specifically, I'm pointing out, she's stalking in the path under a clearly identified light source which defies nature. This is the malice of a stalker who happened, it's not coincidentally, she's engaged in a documented act of retaliation. That's speaking to longer, if she's even alive, all right, to survive what is federal prosecution, because she's going to federal prison, the demon in Unit 42. She's driving, again, license plate 8, let me recite it again. License plate 8FYB068. And as I walk into the parking lot and I'm showing you the fake sun is in tow, moving from being over the building of units 33 through 48 to remain over me as I walk into the parking lot. And this demon, over 55 years old, she is a bald-headed, she's over 55 years old. I know that. I don't know her particular age, but she's a bald-headed, elderly African-American female, or at least she's melanated, and she is engaged in pacing around the vehicle. The doors open, the trunk open. You can have whatever you want in your hand. She's pacing under a fake sun, and that's how you're understanding what supersedes. You're not being productive, putting stuff in and out of your car. You're not moving. You're not putting groceries in and out. You're pacing under a fake sun. You have to ignore the fact of the environment in order to get to the fact that it's innocent and it's merely coincidental and everyone's doing it ignorantly while the government is stalking me. Okay, so that's again unreasonable. I'm not going to even entertain that line. That's not even a line of reasoning at all. That's again the demon possessed who are fully surrounded by facts. That's putting the people of the state in prison, because those facts put them in prison, period. Never mind the fact that demons have no facts that support what is the supernatural occurrence of an environment. And in that supernatural environment, they engage in a pattern of a method of flashing of light. That's what this demon, this African-American, again, operating a vehicle with license plate, let me recite it again, license plate 8FVB068. This is a Buick SUV. that she's in operation of. She's stalking in the path while I'm in the kitchen. I'm walking around in the living room where the television was not blinking, okay? The entity is frenzied right now while I document the demon-possessed who are psychopaths. It's demonstrated through the environment around me. The light activity goes more chaotic. The audible activity goes more chaotic, such as a helicopter arriving as I'm documenting them. The ongoing amplification of loud booms and earthquake-like, which I'm very much heavily documenting in the text. The document entitled WSA-The People, as I'm documenting minute by minute, second by second, everything that I'm typing, the ongoing amplified audible activity, which is criminal interference with quiet enjoyment, which they're going to be prosecuted for, but I'm spelling out what is their pattern of conduct. The television starts blinking in and out. That's not a malfunction. That's interference with the operation of that which is inside of your private space, which the government has no right to interfere with. And they also don't have a right to interfere with it because they're monitoring you. And you know that, as a matter of fact, because the fake sun sits over your venue. All right, which is, again, a facilitating venue, not a private space where nobody has any constitutional protections, and you're going straight to federal prison. All right, the entity is doing so with impunity. That's AVANATH Capital Management, a corporate actor who was going to complain about the level of damages. But while they were documenting, while criminally monitoring the evidence, they did not cease to engage in that. And that impunity is adding to the weight and damages that will be ordered, and the amount of time in federal prison by their employees at the venue, which is mandatory. You're not avoiding that. And the amount of time in federal prison, while petty, bald-headed elderly people that are documented and are hostile to being exposed for being sex offenders, but sex offenders don't like being identified as sex offenders, so they're aided by the government who arrives in helicopter to further engage in psychological harms, threatening my life and my safety while I'm enforcing my constitutional right for them not to worship my genitalia, for them not to expend millions of dollars, which Paul Leon knows all about, while the police are used to engage in domestic terrorism, not protecting and serving and honoring an oath that these demon-possessed people take in order to be a part of the corrupt system in the state of California. That's what they're actually doing as corrupt law enforcement agencies. And that's why thousands of dollars are used to stalk in a helicopter, because I'm exposing one of the demons who are going to federal prison. Let me read her license plate again. BFVBO68. Okay, 5WUB715, the demon that puts peroxide in her hair, who's over 55, who does not have a job either, who was going to a mental asylum. All right, she's engaging in gang stalking with the Ontario police, psychological torture with the demons that visit the property, like MARMMAK, the Arizona plate documented under the fake sun, with the Ontario Police Department. Engaging while I am inside, subject to psychological torture, ongoing earthquake-like booming conduct, which the demon is in real time, 12:07 p.m., amplified audible activity of the demon pacing above. She doesn't even have a right to be at this venue. Only a delusional psychopath would further provide evidence against themselves with the ongoing amplification of pacing. And you were already caught by meaning they're going to come arrest you, you're going to prison, and you would engage in more criminal conduct. Those are the psychopaths that worship my genitalia. Okay, this is the practice of witchcraft. This is surrounding the demon possessed with the evidence insurmountable, which is tangible in substance, and it also has a demonic nature, but it is not impervious to a federal prosecution and a federal tribunal. The government that is stalking, which is already established, is the people of the state that are in the shoes of the government, stalking on behalf of that government, threatening me with that government that arrives in a helicopter at a crime scene that's already established. Okay, that in particular is the demon in Unit 42 that I told you was gang stalking with the demons of Innovage, the demon in the black off-brand truck painted black. They just look like they took some paint from Home Depot and just painted it black with the New Jersey plate on it, coming and emptying out her apartment. You're not moving away from federal prison. You're not moving away from prosecution. Again, this is also built into why the entity is going to prison, while demons like Jason Knighton are going to prison for a prolonged term. And I'm going to also recite to you many of the names of the demons who are going to prison of the Ontario Police Department, as they've been engaged in years of this very criminal conduct. This is what they were practicing as a department when they had the audacity to exercise fictitious authority under the law. Gang stalking upon criminal summoning, gang stalking upon criminal defamation, this very entity that is gang stalking engaging in what is targeting with them. And they also engaged in what is assault and battery and a kidnapping, taking my person any place absent my consent when you have no authority under the law whatsoever. While you're a gang stalker, you're stalking me as a police department. And that is also shown because the whole world can see the fake sun over the Ontario Police Department, which is what is documented in 2021, August of 2021. If you'll recall, in August of 2024,
I'm in Orange County at the Best Western. There's no sun at the same time of year, same time of day that's going to be over the Ontario Police Department. But that's what I documented after this same entity released me from a kidnapping, which they have repeatedly engaged in while they sought to obstruct justice, which is why Jason Knighton and the likes of him are going to prison. And so is this demon in Unit 55, license 5WB715, a fool that continuously amounts more time in the mental asylum where she is going to remain, probably for the rest of her life. She's already over 55, and it is a lesser charge for the federal government to keep her in that confined space than to let this beast be free and target other American citizens in the way in which I'm exposing. The same with the demon in unit number 42. Gang stalking, you can move wherever you want. You can run, but you cannot hide. And this is speaking to, again, the level of justice that is required because of the amount of time that has passed and because of the level of harms that have been included, the level of harms that have been inflicted, including kidnapping. The demons at Woodside Senior Apartments are being prosecuted not just for gang stalking and living and working at a crime scene. They're engaged in the ongoing pattern of conduct. The same kidnappers, the same ones that engage in assault and battery, the same ones that sought to defame my character, are the same ones that are to date aiding that same entity that they are a part of in gang stalking me in furtherance of murder and kidnapping. There will not be any murder of Erica Lorraine Smith. Delusional psychopaths are still gang stalking when there will be no sacrifice of myself. It's not going to happen. So why are you stalking now? You're delusional psychopaths, and that's why mental examinations are going to be necessary. While Jason Knighton and the likes are part of the Ontario Police Department and Woodside Senior Apartments who are going to prison. Units 33 through 64. You can run wherever you want. You can move wherever you want. You are not avoiding prison. You're going. And this is built into what justice requires based on the amount of time. Because the demon-possessed get in their vehicles, gang stalk on their way out with the government, you're going to prison for that. You're going to prison for even longer for that. This is the same venue where I documented this fake sun right now at 11:40 in the morning. The license MARMMAK, the Arizona plate. After 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 in the evening, the fake sun is over this same venue, and she's doing the exact same thing that this demon with license BFVBO68 in concert with the same demon in Unit 55, in concert with the same government using helicopters, expending thousands of dollars to keep me under surveillance. Not engaging in any lawful conduct, not engaging in what is programs and exercising a budget that has to do with anything that's lawful. This is public corruption that Paul Leon is accountable for, that Mike Lorenz is accountable for. And I want to be clear, these two particular demons, like I said, there is no exception with regard to being prosecuted for domestic terrorism. And they continuously engage in conduct that's amounting to federal charges. The entity that is gang stalking me is monitoring, keeping under surveillance all of the evidence that I gather and that I publish. And they also engage in obstruction of justice, trying to psychologically torture me out of publishing it and gathering it. That's the point of flying over my head in a helicopter. That's going against the entire police department, including Jason Knighton. And now many of these kidnappings that I've documented since I'm here, I want to go ahead and expose the demons that are going to federal prison who have been gang stalking me for years. And have engaged in what are multiple acts of kidnapping. There are more than these that engaged in kidnapping. The entire department, the state of California, is kidnapping you when a corrupt police department puts their hands on you and puts you inside of their facilitating venue, which is any police station or any sheriff's department jail, such as West Valley Detention Center, Glen Helen Rehabilitation Center, Central Detention Center, where they're gang stalking. The entire San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department is a gang stalking entity. They hire the demon possessed. And anybody that is not of that, I'm going to let you know how these demons operate. Anybody that is not demon possessed that they hire, those are ones that they are engaging in what is, they're harassing them. They are torturing, psychologically torturing them and sacrificing them. That's the only reason why they hire those that are not demon possessed, okay? But I want to be clear, the Ontario Police Department includes that are going to federal prison, Jason Knighton, badge number 80509, and Lester Keys, engaging in kidnapping me on January 30th, 2020. And the helicopter activities, this is the criminal conduct, this is gang stalking that they engaged in upon criminal summoning with the intent to obstruct justice. And they are still engaging in that. And that's relevant to how many years these demons are going to federal prison. And they're permanently done, and the entire department is done with law enforcement, as the Ontario Police is a very well established domestic enemy They despise the Constitution. They despise American citizens who would enforce their rights like I am. They despise the fact that they want to masturbate and engage in sex rituals with each other, those of the same sex and those of the opposite sex, while they engage in voyeurism, watching you on the internet unbeknownst to you, engaging all manner of what is masturbation while they watch your nude body, while they stalk you, see how you react to being gang stalked by helicopters. And while you are enforcing your rights, they fly over your head in those helicopters. That's the likes of those that are the Ontario police, and that's why they're being disbanded. These are violent sex offenders, and the city of Ontario that Paul Leon is the mayor of for far too long, you're talking about 20 years, this demon is overdue for being removed, and he's being removed shamefully as an exposed domestic terrorist leader who knows exactly what the Ontario Police Department has been doing for decades. This is exactly, like I stated in the video, what Derek Williams, retired gang stalking. Okay, this is exactly why Mike Lorenz is engaging in that same pattern of conduct by an entirely corrupt department. And Lester Keys is going to federal prison as well. That demon can go to a different police department. That demon can go to a different state. Federal law and justice requires that every aspect of kidnapping is dealt with at federal prosecution. This is the same criminal system that has continued for years. Kidnapping by Jason Knight and Lester Keys occurred in 2020, right here across the street from Woodside Senior Apartments on January 13, 2020, where the Ontario International Airport engaged in gang stalking with the police. That is kidnapping by an entity that's monitoring you like a bunch of demons. They engage in that pattern of gang stalking by plane. That's what the Ontario Police Department just did right now, gang stalking me by helicopter as I'm documenting. You can just add to the fact that they were in my path, stalking in the path with light, like this demon in Unit 42 under a fake sun, and the demons that masquerade as legitimate law enforcement, they engage in what is kidnapping you and assault and battery by arresting you, taking you to a jail where they then manufacture criminal charges and criminally defame you, gang stalking the entire time. This is why Jason Knighton and L. Keys are going to prison, and they're going for a prolonged term. So is S. Patty, badge number 19945. So is J. Arnold, badge number 19994. So is C. Scattell. So is S. Patty engaged in kidnapping again on not only on June 18, 2021, also on July 12, 2020, S. Patty, badge number 19945. She's going to prison. She engaged in kidnapping. She is also engaged in criminal summoning on more than one documented occasion. This is everything that's being published onto, see the P.O.C. website. This is the POC.wordpress.com. See the P.O.C. YouTube channel at the P.O.C. And you are going to see the evidence as it's all published to the Google Drive, which you can access on the P.O.C. website. This is the P.O.C.wordpress.com. I am publishing it. I'm at currently, I've published 2018, 2019, 2020, 2024, and to date, I am up to date in 2025. Every day I'm adding more evidence to the case against the demons who are going to federal prison and the disbanding of the Ontario Police Department, which is indicative of what the entire state of California is engaged in. And they're demons while they do so. Okay? And they are adding as corrupt police officers. They're not actual police officers. These are sex offenders. These are stalkers. And this is what Satan has made them, while they bring shame to what law enforcement should represent and should be engaged in this country. Okay? This is S. Patty, though, that's documented July 12, 2020. She's gang stalking when she engages in a kidnapping. All right? And September 25, 2020, A. Morris, badge number 20310, and Corporal Kemp. They're kidnapping from the heavily documented Economy Inn at 2301 South Euclid Avenue, where there is no sun that would ever be over that hotel, let alone in its zenith over the top of my head, over my hotel room at that hotel, which is what I documented while I stayed there. And this same corrupt police department was gang stalking me there, obsessed with my genitalia and worshiping it while I stayed there in concert with the people of the state, engaging in that same exact pattern of conduct under a fake sun, including the Ontario International Airport. All hours of the day and night in engineered light. All of the angles of the same POC documented at Economy Inn, where this same corrupt police department that's being disbanded kidnapped me via A. Morris, badge number 20310, and Corporal Kemp on September 25th, 2020. There was a third demon-possessed officer whose name and badge number I did not get, but those two, that's all I get. I get whatever I have at my disposal because they're going to prison. And again, my documentation does not exist in isolation. The federal government is aiding and providing justice, and the demons that put their hands on me, engage in kidnapping, the Ontario Police does not have any authority under the law. They don't. Neither do any of these demons they're all operating under an illusion. And I'm going to show everyone how the law actually works while they continuously operate in their illusion.
using the police, the resources of the city police to engage in gang stalking me. You're not a police officer. That's Satan that's wearing a badge. That's Satan literally wearing a meat suit of someone who's wearing a badge and abusing the resources of the city. That demon that has a government name is going to prison. They're going to prison. And that police department that's full of an army of demons is being disbanded. And that army of demons is being removed from law enforcement permanently as they continuously operate in a system that is within their own illusion, where the government formerly were capable of keeping an American citizen under surveillance and abusing and exploiting the Constitution in doing so. This is how you have stalkers thinking that they're protected and that they can never be identified or suspected because they live where they're supposedly stalking. And how are you going to prove that they're stalking? All of this has been answered by the P.O.C. A bunch of delusional psychopaths and sex offenders who worship my genitalia, which the whole world needs to know. Sex offenders make up the police department that's stalking, wasting thousands, that equals millions of dollars on stalking me. You're obsessed with me and you're going to prison. You even use the elderly to keep me under surveillance while they sit at home all day with no job, accumulating time in federal prison for the rest of however long they have. Okay? The entity is engaged in amplified audible activity at 12:20 p.m. They don't have any future and they know it. Okay, they have already written off what is any sort of, they're already over 55, so I want to be clear. And not to say that you can't have a log floor life, but 55, you're advanced in age already. And you, not only that, you're demon possessed while you're going to prison. Okay, and many of them are walking around on walkers with high blood pressure, liver spots, wrinkles and whatnot, and you're going to prison where they are not going to treat you like some dainty elder. They know that the monsters and the barbarians that you are while you're still gang stalking, and the prize you win, while the federal prosecutor is documenting in real time, while the corrupt landlord is being removed from the practice of real estate in the state of California and is going to be ordered to pay me damages for what you continuously engage in concert with that corrupt government. Your prize is federal prison and more damages awarded to me. That's the prize for ongoing amplified audible activity like a booming earthquake at 12:20 p.m. while they're monitoring evidence in violation of federal law. That's Title 18, Section 2261A, subsections 1 and 2. I want to be clear, these demons of the Ontario police are going to federal prison. That's not the only one. I want to document again Jason Burnett. This demon engaged in what is kidnapping as well, in concert with the very well documented Tracy Banks. Every kidnapping is occurring in concert with Tracy Banks. This is a gang stalking relative. The same with Eric Corey Spencer. What the Ontario Police Department is doing today, the Ontario Police Department is doing with the gang stalking relatives of the targeted individual. They are accumulating for themselves time in federal prison. You are not escaping this. And this is, again, using their own illusion of reality against them. And mine is actually based on facts and the law and how it operates and how it shall operate to provide justice to that targeted individual. Jason Knighton, kidnapping on May 4, 2019, he's going to prison. And he continuously engages in targeting. And this is the criminal conduct that he was engaged in while he misused a badge and in a position of authority with a corrupt city and in conformity to a pattern of conduct. This is what's going on while I'm subject to it, and I'm documented by a bunch of demons over the age of 55 at Woodside Senior Apartments. And this same department is gang stalking in helicopter. Jay Burnett, badge number 19993, is going to federal prison, and so is Sequoia, documented at Woodside Senior Apartments pursuant to criminal summoning under the fake sun, which you can see through the light activity. There's no sun that's going to be over me in July of 2024, like I documented, while LAPD is gang stalking me in July of 2024. And you can see this light activity speaking to her gang stalking me under a fake sun at Woodside Senior Apartments on July 3rd, 2020 at 9:23 in the morning. All right, the entity is gang stalking on an ongoing basis, ceaselessly. That's the significance of going to Orange County, and you're seeing the Orange County Sheriff's Department gang stalking, notably in helicopters. That's how these particular demons like to engage in terrorism in California. They're also doing so in a readily identifiable environment, because there is no sun that would be over Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles, nor over Woodside Senior Apartments, where it's rising and setting now, because this is where I remain day and night, while it's remaining over me at the Best Western off of Newport Boulevard in Costa Mesa, California. Speaking to the criminal activity of the Costa Mesa Police Department, where you will see the fake sun in the middle of the day over my head in Costa Mesa over the facilitating venue of the Costa Mesa Police Department. This is how all these facts work together, and a bunch of demons that fill the state, public corruption, a system of domestic terrorism, in other words, by the demon possessed that are the people of the state of California. The entire entity, the population of demons that Satan has exercised over, they are engaging in a criminal system, and it's ordinarily referred to as gang stalking. These demons have placed themselves in prison. And I have many of them named. I have many of them identified by department. There is no sun that's going to be over the San Diego Police Department at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, daylight savings time or not. And I'm showing you it's rising and setting when the Ontario Police Department are gang stalking me under that fake sun where it's rising and setting at this specific venue where AVANATH Capital Management is engaged in what is a program of psychological torture. That is the removal of that corrupt company that will be participating in no federal housing programs, that will be providing no more housing to at Woodside Senior Apartments. Everybody at this venue is being displaced. Not only because they're being prosecuted in violation of the HUD rules where they're required, where they need to be in compliance in order to get the aid to pay their rent, because none of these demon-possessed gang stalkers can afford to pay their rent. And they act with a corrupt government who provides evidence against them, who are violating the Violence Against Women Act with them based on the unprecedented ways in which they're violating the Violence Against Women Act. But they are also violating my constitutional rights. The Violence Against Women Act is just a means of showing how this government that's practicing this system amongst the entity everywhere that you're living and everywhere that you're going. All right, that's informing how federal laws shall change and need to change as a matter of justice based on the public corruption that's exposed through the P.O.C, where the government sought to target me and they're putting their own gang stalking police officers, they're putting their own gang stalking civilians in federal prison for prolonged terms. And that's everybody in units 33 through 64. And in particular, again, the demon license MARMMAK, gang stalking with the demons in units 33 through 64. They're going to prison, and so is that demon that was doing the exact same thing that this demon license 8FVB068, the demon in unit number 42, under a fake sun that is at 8 o'clock, at 10:40, and at 11:40 in the morning, remaining over the, I've also documented after that, at 2 o'clock and 3:30 in the afternoon, the fake sun is over the same apartment unit number 41, while it is remaining over the east side of this building, onto the west side of the building, in alignment to me, where it is the evidence of a population that is stalking. And that population is demon possessed. And that population practices demonic methods of stalking in the path, stalking amongst engineered light. And they engage in a program of psychological torture together, which is the work of Satan, the desire of Satan, the purpose of Satan, targeting and torturing the one whom he cannot possess. Satan knows he cannot have me, and so he sought very foolishly and ignorantly to target me amongst a bunch of meat suits, and those meat suits are going to prison. And that meat suit that fills that helicopter, he or she, they're going to prison. However many bodies are in that aircraft, and that department that it belongs to, the Ontario Police, is being disbanded. And every gang stalker that engaged in kidnapping on behalf of the state of California, the Ontario Police, you're understanding what is removing this illusion where you've got a police department that's operating in a city that's within a county. No, this is an entity, and I've shown that. That's why I can go from Orange County to Los Angeles County to Kern County to San Bernardino County to Las Vegas, Nevada, and show you the identical pattern of conduct. This is one entity that has committed multiple kidnappings, and you're going to prison for it. You're going to prison. All right, it is currently 12:27 p.m. You will recognize the pattern of conduct amongst the Arizona license MARMMAK, stalking in the path with flashing of light while inside of the apartment, ongoing amplified audible activity, stalking me with amplified noise, which is a means of monitoring me, but it's also psychologically harmful. While the ordinary target individual realizes while you make any move, ongoing noise occurs, and it's disruptive noise with regard to the contractual right to quiet enjoyment. This is how you're going to hold the gang stalking landlords, and you know that. That's what Speaker Companies was. I have been in positions in order for you to understand how a state, how an entity is targeting an American citizen, as I'm of the employed. All right. And a gang stalker that owns real estate property, that's managing that property, is targeting an American citizen. You are understanding while I'm in that position for you to see it from that vantage point. I am in the position where I'm living inside of an apartment where the entity is targeting me. So you are able to understand it from this vantage point. Being one practicing law, the entity was targeting me and engaged in more threatening conduct. The more that I began to document, became aware, then they pulled out the helicopters. And they did so in a manner that was communicating a threat directly to me, because as you can see on May 18th, 2018, the Upland Police Department was gang stalking me by planes and helicopters while that fake sun was stationary over my apartment at 850 Redding Way in Upland, California. But the helicopter activity and the plane activity was that which I documented, so it is nonetheless evidence within the P.O.C., but it's not evidence that I was cognizant of, that I wasn't aware, in other words, that I had documented that pattern of conduct. But I knew enough to document, okay? But you will see the same pattern of conduct in 2018 by the Upland Police Department. These are not different police departments that I'm capturing. This is an entity that's engaged in an identical pattern of conduct. And everybody that engaged in kidnapping, which includes the Upland Police Department, that's a basis for disbanding. Justice shall be upon this land-breaking means of prosecuting domestic terrorism in the state, any kidnapper, that includes the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, the Upland Police Department, and the Ontario Police Department, disbanding, and federal prison for everyone that put their hands on me, and anyone that engaged in criminal summoning in order to accomplish that kidnapping. And this is inherent to the gang stalkers who are known by being relatives and or in the associates that I formerly referred to as friends. Okay, but they're all in the same sex cult. They were having sex with each other. They practice witchcraft with one another. And there is no demon-possessed gang stalker that will have anything to do with what is my personal life. I want to be clear. I pray that you come to the realization of your need for Christ Jesus. I pray that you come to that realization. I forgive every single last one of you. I have no reason to hold on to bitterness. I'm clearly in a stance of victory. I don't have anything to fear. Satan cannot have me. I pray that you do better in the future, but you have no stake in my life. I want to make sure that that's clear. There is no prophet that is speaking on behalf of the Lord God, that is speaking on behalf of anyone that had anything to do with this criminal system, which was designed to murder me and steal that which belongs to me, that thinks that you have any stake in what God has for me in the future, because you don't. I want to let you know right now, and that's the prophetic word. It's not going to happen. I'm prosecuting. I will get justice, and I am moving on beyond this. And no gang stalker, Tracy Banks, Eric Corey Spencer, and everyone else that had anything to do with this. If I know your name, in other words, you will have nothing to do with what goes on in my life in the future. And I want to make sure that that's abundantly clear. That's why I'm including it in this documentation. It is currently 12:30 p.m. on February 22nd, 2025. This is P.O.C.
This is documentation. I just want to gather this real quick. What you're looking at here is somebody's monitoring, crossing path. They're gang stalking. They know what I'm doing on my phone. That simultaneity of conduct under what is a fake sun that you can see reflecting here off of this vehicle. That's also the identification of a third party that's stalking. And this is, again, evidence of what is necessarily what's reflecting off of the windshield is that which is still present over apartment 41, again, as of 1:54 p.m. And the psychological torture of the demons that are in units 33 through 64 consists of the following. First of all, you're going to look at this impossible light activity. You can see my hands. I've got more than one shadow that's upright on the wall inside of the, I was about to say the library, excuse me, inside of the living room. This is, I've got three. You can see three hands. 1, 2, and 3. And upright on the living room wall. And this is, again, light activity that's actually coming from a reflection off of a surface where a fake sun is idle. This is also the environment where the demon in unit 55 is stalking with simultaneity to the entity's interference with the television, okay? The same time that the demon is stomping is the same time that the television goes off in an environment where the fake sun is idle all day long, and the entity is criminally interfering with the operation of a television by interfering with the antenna. It's not a malfunction. And by the way, like I stated earlier, this channel doesn't have any malfunction issues. That's why it's literally on QVC. It's a means of documenting the entity that's monitoring inside of a private space. The sex offenders are engaging in psychological torture, interfering with the television. At the same time, the demon above is gang stalking, which you know that because you can see my shadow on the ceiling now, and you can also see this object right here, the lamp. The shadow of it is elongated on the ceiling. This is all impossible light activity while engineer light appears on the inside, and the fake sun is over the same apartment number 41. The demons living in apartment 41 are going to prison, okay? The demons gang stalking with the unit 55. That's exactly what she was doing with the demon in unit 42 that had her flashers on in the parking lot. That's exactly what they were doing at 3:50 p.m. when this fake sun is in the same position over unit 41 at 3:50 in the afternoon, where the Ontario police is gang stalking in that video as well with third-party license plate MARMMAK with the Arizona plates. She was stalking in the path, engaging in psychological torture, engaging in a sex offense with AVANATH Capital Management, AVANATH Capital Management's employees, AVANATH Capital Management's residents, who are criminally liable for the conduct of the residents where they are profiting off of federal group stalking and monitoring. And that's the demons that are paying rent at this facilitating venue. They are gang stalkers by virtue of the corruption in the state of California as well. I've already documented gang stalking by the state in Orange County as well. But this is the fake sun that's over the same apartment 41. And this is, again, while the entity is engaging in what is psychological torture that is documented through the light activity. through the interference with the use of the communication devices, doing so with simultaneity to what I do while I'm being molested. This is a sex offense. Hold on, let me open this back up. This is a sex offense while I'm being molested with engineered light. And then you can see the engineered light, it has nothing to do with the fake sun that's outside. And this is also the same light activity that you saw this morning while the entity is keeping a fake sun over. So I just want to be clear. This is what is being documented in real time on YouTube. The ongoing amplification of loud booming. The demon in unit number 55, license 5WUB715. This is what she looks like. She is going to a mental asylum. She is engaged in what is documented impunity by an entity. This is all criminal conduct. Again, Tracy Banks lives at this venue where I'm subject to the pattern of conduct, and this is a witch that presented her relative in order for the state to stalk me. This is what the state of California practices. This is the demon in Unit 55, who you've seen gang stalking under this fake sun as well, crossing path only when I'm outside to engage in that P.O.C. with the Ontario Police Department as well. This is the demon that's stalking in the path in the living room where this demon knows where I'm at, and this is the building. This is the apartment building right here where the fake sun is, where you can see me touching the screen. Apartment 41 is right here. This is where the fake sun is present again in another video at what is 1:58 in the afternoon right now. The fake sun, hold on, let me close this for 1 second, sorry. The fake sun is present over apartment 41 where I'm touching on the screen right here, where it remains. I captured it this morning at 8:06 over apartment 41. As I walk toward apartment 41 toward the parking lot, it's over this apartment 41 while I walk to the parking lot, and the demon in unit 42 is gang stalking with NO of age who come into the parking lot, and the large black truck that come into the parking lot with the New Jersey plate. That was at 10:40 where it's over apartment number 41. I documented over 41 right now at 1:59 in the afternoon while it's reflecting off of a vehicle parked in the parking lot. And I've also documented well after 3:30 p.m. where, again, the demon with the license MARMMAK is doing the exact same thing, stalking in the path with the method of flashing light. These are demons that are monitoring, and this flashing light is an integral part of the pattern of conduct. They are stalking in the path with light. This is what is relevant to criminal monitoring, and they're doing it inside of a private space, and AVANATH Capital Management is being prosecuted for this. All right, so you're understanding and recognizing the unprecedented basis of corrupt landlords who are engaged in surveillance in the state of California. They're making money while they do so, interfering with the use of communication devices, doing so in sync with the gang stalkers that live at the venue. They're all living at a venue, not a private space where you're looking at this method of light activity, which is not the product of sunlight. The blinds are closed. So the light is so illuminous, all right, that it's creating my shadow upright. This is the evidence of gang stalking. The entity is controlling the operation of the devices, interfering with them with simultaneity to what I'm being monitored on my devices, doing so while I'm uploading evidence that's relevant to the state that's going to be prosecuted for ongoing interference with the federal investigation, while everybody is seen as stalkers, while the Ontario police fly over my head, while the fake sun was over this same exact apartment at 11:40 in the morning. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That's how you know that Mike Lorenz is demon possessed, and so was the demon that was gang stalking in that black helicopter while they were flying over my head, and I was documenting the people of the state. These demons at Woodside Senior Apartments are going to federal prison. All right, like I said, and I've said it before, I'll say it again. The entity is engaged in ongoing documented impunity. This is a sex offense, so I want to be clear. While I go into the bathroom, this is a matter of public information. Everything that's happening between my legs is a matter of public information. This is supposed to be a private space, but it is a means of what is criminal interference by a government that has no legitimate interest in my genitalia. But that's exactly what's underway inside of this apartment, where you see that light activity, interference with the operation of my communication devices, ongoing criminal interference with quiet enjoyment in a specific environment where a fake sun is remaining over one building in alignment with me from the beginning until the end of the day. All right, this is speaking to the sex offense that the state of California is being prosecuted for, and it is shown through the maintenance of impossible light activity and a fake sun. This is apartment number 41 where AVANATH Capital Management resides. The employee, they're going to prison. Every gang stalking household that has minor children shall be removed from having access to such children. Those that are obsessed with the genitalia of the one whom they're gang stalking have no business, and they shall have no connection or custody of minor children. All right, and they do not mind, because they continuously engage in gang stalking and monitoring my genitalia, and they have fully listened to a federal prosecutor telling them that they're going to lose their children, and they continue and they persist, and they do so with impunity. They even do more of it the more that I document. Okay, this is the evidence of gang stalking, the impossible light activity. All right, after 3:54 p.m., the entity is aiming engineered light on this patio glass door, and the shape of this patio glass door then appears on this door over here. I've already documented all of this. It is the P.O.C. and the entity is doing so. So let me go ahead and show you that as well. Because the entity doesn't go anywhere with its screen recordings. Here we go. with its light source and with its pattern of conduct of federal group stalking and monitoring. So here is the fake sun. And this is what I documented at 4:14 p.m. That is 2 hours from now, where the fake sun is in the same position where I'm showing it right now. Okay, this is apartment number 41 still. This is the fake sun after 4 p.m. And I'm comparing it to where the fake sun is on yesterday, February 21st, 2024 at 4:06 p.m. This is where the fake sun is present, remaining from the beginning until the end of the day. That's how I'm able to capture it over my front door, over my head at my apartment, like I showed you on video this morning at 8:07 in the morning. That's where the fake sun was on February 21st. 2024 at 8:07 in the morning. This is where the fake sun was at the same Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles, which is, again, speaking to the pattern of conduct, but it also, when you're going to prosecute the demon possessed, and the illusion, which is the identification of a crime scene where sex offenders are worshiping the genitalia of the one whom they're conspiring to murder and kidnap, they do so while the entity keeps a fake sun over the apartments in Ontario. What's over me at Alvarado Gardens from 8:07 until after 4 o'clock in the evening is not over Woodside Senior Apartments, but this is the case when I am documenting a specific environment, a pattern of conduct. Okay, so the entity is maintaining this light source, and I just want you to see, there is video that I captured. Yeah, that is Romana Medical Transport gang stalking, coming onto the grounds, doing so in a Romana medical transport vehicle, doing so in an Amazon Prime, making a delivery, doing so as a moving company like the Demon in Unit 42, doing so by dropping off a third-party gang stalker over the age of 55 like InnovAge did yesterday. It's the same P.O.C. All right, it's creating the elements of monitoring. So I want you to see, forgive me, I'm going to go through some documentation right now, because since I'm referencing it, I'm going to go ahead and show it to you. Which I captured also in screenshots. So I want you to see the light source. Oh, I know where I captured it. I captured it in images too. So, and I'm referencing the light activity of the fake sun that's bouncing off of the same patio door after 4 p.m. that you see setting. And it's still over the same apartment number 41. After 4 p.m. And this is the same apartment building that is over at 8 o'clock in the morning, like I documented today, February 22nd, 2025. And relevant to the evidence that I'm capturing regarding the evidence of the light source after 4 p.m. at the same exact apartment where I'm at, apartment number 51 at Woodside Senior Apartments. This is the evidence of stalking, and it is showing the government's engagement and what is stalking. Clearly, they're stalking in helicopter, and doing so as I document the stalkers that live at the venue and visit the venue to engage in criminal activity. There's no constitutionally protected right to engage in gang stalking by visiting. You're going to prison for that. And here is the evidence of what is on the patio front door, while the same fake sun, this is at 4:54 p.m. where the light source is still in a position, and this is not sunlight, just like it's not sunlight aiming reflecting off of a windshield into the apartment. You're looking at what are demons doing? They're stalking in your path. They're stalking your path while light is being maintained in your path. Having the fake sun reflecting off of a windshield, and that's supposed to be the guise under which my multiple shadows are upright on the living room wall. That's the pattern of conduct of stalking in the path with light. This is what the demons are doing while their shadows are moving across Tracy Banks' patio door, while they know what I'm doing on the inside. This is what an entity is doing under a fake sun, interfering with the operation of the television, and they continuously do even more of it as I document. That's why they're going to federal prison for years. Okay, more years than the entity has been engaged in gang stalking. This is the fake sun that is, again, covering the patio glass door. It's covering the patio glass door right now. This is what I'm documenting at 4:55. All right, this is an entity that's keeping this light source. I wanted to get this because this is what I just documented right now. The television goes out at the same time that the demon in Unit 55 is stomping, the loud booming noise like a bomb. And then I'm showing you what is the light activity. This is terrorism, and this is criminal interference with quiet enjoyment. This is the federal imprisonment of everybody that's living. This is the nightmare that the ordinary target individual is living with, and they suffer in silence. And it is that which is done in furtherance of murdering someone, in order that they engage in what is suicidal ideation, in order that they start to question their own sanity, in order that they would hate their own lives, that they would
hopefully engage in what is attacking the people around them, so that the entity can further defame them and depict them as being delusional, hallucinating, in need of being taken to a mental ward and being kept against their will when the entity is psychologically torturing them. You're going to prison for that. In addition to that, this very entity engaged in kidnapping on more than one occasion. They kidnapped the wrong person, okay? Because I'm reciting their ongoing federal charges on an ongoing basis, and they're doing it with the very government that arrived in helicopter today. So let's be reminded what was happening under this fake sun. At what was, and while it's over the same exact apartment building that it's over now. Okay, so let's revisit that. This is the Ontario Police providing evidence against the demons living at the venue, threatening my life as I document them. All right, this is the demon license plate 8FVB068, while the fake sun advances as I advance in the parking lot. All right, it is currently 2:20 p.m. This is in reference to documentation occurring at 2:13 p.m. I want to document the entity engaged in what is the ongoing control of not only the communication device, which you can see in the video that I captured that you just listened to. You see the picture going in and out. That is criminal interference with, that is constructive presence that the entity has no warrant or probable cause to maintain through light activity, through amplified audible activity, through presence of stalkers that live at the venue, presence of stalkers that come onto the grounds of the venue, and presence of stalkers that fly over the venue. Doing so while interfering with the operation of the television through controlling appliances such as the air cooler, and I will recite how the entity engaged in that right now, is the evidence of federal group stalking and monitoring that is ceaselessly underway. So at 2:13 p.m., which is when I started recording this, and for whatever reason it stopped recording, so I'm restarting it again. At 2:13 p.m., the entity is amplifying the sound of what is the demon in unit number 55. Where again, it is supernatural that this demon is stomping and it's reverberating like an earthquake, like a loud boom inside of the unit. This is amplification, and that is, in case you're unclear about the evidence that defies nature, it is as conclusive as the fake sun that I am again in this video where you could see it with your own eyes. The fake sun is over the same apartment number 41 that it was over apartment number 41 this morning at 8:06 in the morning. All right, as I captured it also yesterday, February 21st, 2025 at what was 10:40 in the morning, where the fake sun goes over the same apartment, unit number 41, and that's again going toward apartment 41 as I walk toward the parking lot to document. As I documented today, February 22nd, 2025, as I go to the parking lot to document the demon in unit 42, and the fake sun is over again, apartment number 41, as I walk to that parking lot, into that parking lot. It extends beyond apartment 41, but it goes back over that apartment 41 where it's sitting idle now. Okay, at what is 2:22 in the afternoon, and in the video that I captured at 1:57 p.m., it's over the same apartment, reflecting off of a windshield, creating 3 shadows upright inside of this living room, which is impossible light activity. That's the evidence of what is supernatural as a demon over 55 that does not have a job, and whose job it is to stalk me inside of her 600 square foot apartment. Her job is to stand directly over me, and at every moment that I make any move, any new movement, anything that triggers the demon that is stalking where she lives, doing so on behalf of the government that's also stalking, as you saw today again under a fake sun, in helicopter, speaking to the millions of dollars spent on gang stalking me by the state in its totality for a series of years as well. The entity is doing so while I am documenting and while I am creating what is the evidence to publish onto the internet. And so the way that you can see in the video that I captured that you just listened to, the fake sun is sitting over. This is providing context regarding what is a crime scene and how the entity is engaging in the crime of the criminal elements of monitoring: light activity, relevant positioning, and audible activity. They're engaged in the crime of relevant positioning at Woodside Senior Apartments by living at the apartment complex, which is a crime and not constitutionally protected private activity or private speech. And they're going to be prosecuted for the level of malice with which they conspire with the state to murder and kidnap someone, and they continuously do it with impunity. At 2:13 p.m., where the air cooler that is operating outside of the bounds that it is programmed to, it's set at 67 degrees. It's not 67 degrees in this apartment. I keep it on that because the ordinary operation of a cooling device is to stay on, and in real time, as I reference it, it goes off again. This is the entity that is using that with simultaneity to the cooler coming back on, which is the means of monitoring. So as I'm in operation of my device, the air cooler turns back on as it's operating outside of the bounds that it's programmed to do so. And with simultaneity to that, the demon in unit number 55, the amplified sound of a loud boom while the demon is stomping at the same time that the air cooler turns back on. That's activity creation under a fake sun, while engineered light, as you've seen, the shape of like popsicle sticks on the living room floor, growing in size, appearing and disappearing, moving closer and closer to me. This is showing the obsession that is shared by those who are demon possessed, who are stalking, and it includes the Ontario Police Department, whose helicopter activity is heard at the same time that the air cooler turns off and the demon above stomps her foot, and it's amplified like a loud booming in the apartment, and the sound of helicopter activity persists. All right, this is the entity that's engaged in what is psychological torture tactics. And this is, again, the entity that is monitoring evidence of violation of Title 18. This is, again, another iteration is what you saw on the video under the fake sun. The engineered light is appearing as though it's sunlight that would be reflecting at that greater distance, creating what is horizontal light, my upright shadow. Okay, not shadow that is on, not my shadows, well, it would be one shadow that will be on the ground, but this is horizontal light like a laser off of a windshield, creating multiple shadows on the inside of the apartment. That's not sunlight either. That's understanding what is a method of stalking in the path. That's what the demon possessed do. When they're flying over Tracy Banks's apartment, they're stalking in the path. They're stalking in the path with amplified audible activity, while engineered light such that it is reflecting underneath a fake sun off of a windshield of a identified third party, and I have multiple shadows that are appearing upright on the living room wall. That's the elements of light activity, relevant positioning by stalkers, and audible activity. And it includes the government controlling the electrical outlets, how much electricity you get. That's how you control outside of the way in which the cooler or your refrigerator is programmed. If you have it programmed to set to the coolest temperature and yet it still comes on and off repeatedly, it's not because the refrigerator is at the coldest temperature. It's used as a means of monitoring. It turns on and off pursuant to the creation of activity based on what it is you are doing, which is a demonic method of monitoring inside of a private space. And it is a sex offense that the government commits. This is what you'll see in video, where the television is a means of controlling what is the way that the television is operating. The picture's turning on and off, which is not a malfunction, is the interference with the signal, which is, again, the government that has no warrant or probable cause to maintain constructive presence. And you know that it's constructive presence also because it's with simultaneity to the demon in 55, who was also stomping at the same time. The entity is doing this while I am documenting the fake sun that's over the same apartment number 41 at 1:55 in the afternoon, the same apartment 41 where it was over at 8:06 in the morning, the same apartment 41 where that fake sun was over at 10:40 in the morning yesterday on February 21st, the same apartment 41 where that fake sun was over at 11:40 where the Ontario police is gang stalking and terrorizing and psychologically torturing with the intent to obstruct justice, as I capture video of the gang stalkers that are acting with the government. Stalking, engaged in relevant positioning on a 24-hour basis, which is intolerable facilitation. You go to prison for that. Not only are they stalking on a 24-hour basis, they're creating activity on a 24-hour basis, which is also why they're going to prison. They're doing so in concert with the government. In case you did not know, SoCal Gas is gang stalking. SoCal Edison is gang stalking. They are the means whereby you are being monitored inside of wherever it is that you remain, where there's electricity, lights, and whatnot. These are a means of activity creation where you are under surveillance also on the internet, online, on your devices, also literally physically inside of your homes. And this is an example of what you're subject to. As I am documenting it, it is a means of psychological torture, while the entity is engaging in what is obstruction of justice. And the prize for the Ontario police, who are amplifying helicopter activity as the cooler operates outside of the way I've programmed it, in sync, with simultaneity to the demons that are stalking with amplified audible activity under a fake sun and an engineer light. The prize is the disbanding of the Ontario Police Department, which is a terrorist organization, not a law enforcement agency. And this is the recitation of facts as it's underway, the iteration of the P.O.C. at 2:13 p.m. So I want to make sure that I add this, and I also want to give context. The demon possessed that are a threat to national security, these are the kind of criminal acts that they engage in because they're scared. This is literally the fact of they're fearful of what I just documented, of what they continuously engage in, but then they're also scared of the fact that I'm going to publish it. We're a rational, sane person that should not be gang stalking. You're beyond sanity when you're gang stalking, but just comparing it to a sane person, this is why mental examinations are inherent, imperative, inextricable with regard to the federal prosecution and time in prison and the mental asylums. The entity that is not sane, that is mentally unstable, is fearful of the consequences, but yet engages in more harm toward the American citizen. These are the domestic terrorists that are gang stalking, and they make up the Ontario Police Department. They make up Woodside Senior Apartments. They make up AVANATH Capital Management's workforce at Woodside Senior Apartments. They make up the city of Ontario, the civilian population, and the corrupt government that is gang stalking, including Paul Leon, including Mike Lorenz, including the demons documented engaged in kidnapping by badge number and names, including all of the entity that I've been documenting for years throughout the state of California. This mental instability is born of desperation because they still want to worship my genitalia and they want to stalk me. They just don't want me to share the evidence about it. And that just does not work against a federal prosecutor and any prudent observer of what I have been engaged in. What my pattern is that you face more severe consequences as opposed to avoiding consequences, but you are not dealing with sane people, you're dealing with Satan. The character of Satan is to engage in more harm that they can possibly get away with until the point that they cannot get away with it anymore. That's what Satan is doing, by the way. Doing as much as he can because he knows he's out of time. This is a threat to national security while the demon-possessed who are targeting American citizens engage in that same behavioral pattern. It is a national security threat, and it is directly relevant to how many years the people that stayed at Woodside are going to prison. And no work schedule is interfering with how many years Linda Reyes is going to federal prison. You're not removed from the P.O.C. as an employee of AVANATH at the crime scene where you work. And this is the pattern of conduct that's acting as an entity. All right. They engage in tag team targeting. Any demon drives through the parking lot to engage in monitoring me inside of a private space, stalking in the path with their hazard lights on while psychological torture is underway. They come with regard to the convenience whereby federal group stalking and monitoring is underway with the government that is stalking on a 24-hour base, spending millions on worshiping my genitalia, spending millions on gang stalking me. Okay, this is what the entity is doing on an ongoing basis. Currently 2:30 p.m. And I want to add that in. This is psychological torture that's ceaselessly underway while the fake sun, as you'll see in the video that I captured, is remaining over the same exact apartment building. And as you'll see in the video, it's still remaining. It doesn't go anywhere well after 4 p.m. And if you're aware of the body of evidence, I've captured the fake sun before the time that I captured today at 8:06 a.m. I captured the sunrise at 7:18 a.m. I've captured the sunset as late as 6:32 p.m., which you can also see this on what is the Recognizing the Pattern of Conduct, which is published on the P.O.C. website at thisisthepoc.wordpress.com. And the pattern of conduct that's underway at Woodside Senior Apartments is the prosecution of the state of California. All right, where you will see from sunrise to sunset, taking into account daylight savings time, and where the fake sun is remaining, having nothing to do with what is giving or taking away an hour, will never reconcile what is the maintenance of the fake sun, speaking to what is stalking by a government and a population that's in the shoes of the government, not exercising any First Amendment protected rights. You don't have any right to work, to visit, to live, to be around, because this is what the state of California is doing, and that is what is relevant to the body of evidence that even exceeds what I documented again on yet another day. And this is again the ongoing chorus that the state of California continues to communicate, which is relevant to what I've addressed as an impermissible threat by a demon possessed. This is a mentally unstable population that has been secretly targeting American citizens. No longer a secret, and neither is their mental illness. All right. Neither is their perversion, their sexual perversion, their obsession with the ones whom they want to murder and kidnap. And it is the system of gang stalking. It is the organized crime of federal group stalking and monitoring that the city of Ontario is practicing, and that the state of California is engaged in. It is currently 2:32 p.m. This is P.O.C. Okay, it is currently 4:18 p.m.
That is documentation of the criminal interference with quiet enjoyment. What you're hearing is loud cracking and of the ceiling and the walls, which surrounds me inside of the apartment. That is also coated in engineered light, where the fake sun is sitting idle at 4:19 p.m. This is the ongoing psychological torture that, again, the chairman, CEO of AVANATH Capital Management, a gang stalker that is in real estate, engaged in managing real property where domestic terrorism is underway, and they're profiting from it, and they're also participating in it while they are gang stalking with the state of California. This is the demon in unit number 55. That's what you just heard, and it is currently 4:19 p.m. This is what has been going on for hours, so I'm going to document right now as a matter of evidence, because AVANATH Capital Management is civilly and criminally liable for what the demon, this is a demon-possessed person, legally this is a third party, this is a domestic terrorist that is acting on behalf of the state. This is state action, and AVANATH Capital Management is a third-party gang stalker that is using its facilitating venue, not a private property, for criminal activity, and this facilitating venue is the basis to subject them to exposing them to damages in civil court, and also a criminal prosecution of that business and the criminal prosecution of its employees at Woodside Senior Apartments and of the residents. They are also criminally liable because at AVANATH Capital Management's property, Woodside Senior Apartments, the government itself, through the public, also the civilians, come onto AVANATH Capital Management's property to share in that criminal engagement in the P.O.C. So what you're hearing while I am just letting the audible activity rip, this is a demon that's doing this same, what you hear, the crackling, that's amplified in volume. That's a supernatural occurrence. It is as supernatural as the fake sun being at, what is 4:20? 8 hours from the video that I captured this morning at 8:06, it is as supernatural as that light source being at the same address. And that is also a matter of documentation, speaking to what is domestic terrorism that's underway and what is not a private space. This is a stalker that is maintaining presence. And so this is, again, Daryl Carter is the CEO and the chairman of this corrupt company, AVANATH Capital Management, that is in the business of not real estate, but federal group stalking and monitoring. And it is the guise under which a corrupt company is profiting. So this is the demon that is living in unit number 55. This is the same demon I've documented her gang stalking with the Ontario police. That's exactly what she was doing while the entity is amplifying the sound of helicopter as the air cooler goes off in order that I can more clearly hear the helicopter while they're controlling the use of the appliances, and the demon punctuating the appliance going off as she is stalking in the path, which is her job, as she doesn't have an actual job. She's stalking while living at her apartment where she's being aided by the government to pay rent. And she's engaged in domestic terrorism, a sex offender that's worshiping my genitalia, following me like she is now, my physical movement, my activity creation on a device. She's also following me into a bathroom where she's also aware of everything going on with my legs being open, my legs being closed, my genitalia being exposed, everything that's going on inside of that private space. She also knows what's going on at that time as well, and she represents the state. This Daryl Carter is a chairman and CEO of an entirely corrupt company, AVANATH Capital Management, engaging in domestic terrorism that Speaker Companies is exposed as engaging in, as I was of the employ, again, of a third party that was monitoring me, hired me to monitor me, in hopes of accomplishing kidnapping and murder in Los Angeles. That is not what happened. I did travel even outside of the state to document what the demons at Woodside Senior Apartments are engaging on a 24-hour basis, where this is the P.O.C. headquarters, and that criminal interference with quiet enjoyment that you just heard as I started it is the evidence of what is the pattern of conduct, that which is occurring at all hours, 24 hours a day, as I go from the living room to the kitchen to the bathroom, wherever it is that I'm going, and also with regard to whatever triggers the demons regarding what it is that I might describe. As I describe a demon as a sex offender, amplified audible activity will occur. Amplified audible activity under the guise of helicopter activity will occur. Whatever the demons are using in order to communicate a threat by animals, all right, much like a demon is engaging in what is threatening you through the amplified audible activity, the simultaneity with which whatever you're doing and the demons don't like, that audible activity will occur, like animals behaving that will begin growling at you, a rabies-infected animal that's salivating, foaming at the mouth. This is what demons behave like while they're engaging in a sex offense, and they're engaged in federal stalking. So it is the evidence of criminal monitoring under Title 18. And it is that which has been ongoing. So I want to make sure that I document it because I did capture screenshots. And in real time, as I start zooming on my phone at 4:23 p.m., the demon is repeating that. And so while I'm talking, that may or may not be picking up on the speaker, but this is what I've been documenting while I have been uploading the podcast onto the internet in order to process it from the video into audio to share it on the podcast. As I have been uploading the video evidence onto the Google Drive, which I'm still doing right now. The demons are currently being documented, monitoring federal evidence that's going to be used against them in federal court, and they're doing so with impunity. And this is the same criminal conduct of the same Ontario Police Department that is gang stalking through the population. This is the entity that is gang stalking as an entire city, as an entire state, while the pattern of conduct is concentrated at Woodside Senior Apartments. So this is entirely state action, and this is documentation of psychological torture. As I start scrolling on my screen, the demon resumes what is amplified audible activity, which you heard as I just remained silent for a few moments. This is what is sounding. The criminal interference with quiet enjoyment is ongoing technical abuse that I am subject to, which is relevant to the Violence Against Women Act that denotes, the Violence Against Women Act specifically references psychological torture within a pattern of conduct of stalking, and it's relevant to technical abuse. As I use my communication devices, I'm subject to more psychological torture, which is in the form of ongoing amplified noise inside of the apartment while a population stalks in the parking lot, stalks by residents at the venue, stalks by presence all around the venue, and stalks by presence in the sky space. This is what the Ontario Police Department and the Ontario International Airport engage in. Systematically. This is technical abuse under 34 U.S.C. section 12291, where the Violence Against Women Act is systematically being violated by the very residents, by the landlord itself, AVANATH Capital Management, by the state of California, who is sharing in the criminal interference with quiet enjoyment as a means of what is gang stalking in the city of Ontario and in the state of California. And the demon in unit number 55 relies on what is HUD regulations in order to pay her rent, where she's stalking where she lives. This is literally antithetical to the purpose of providing assistance in the form of paying a portion of the rent of any person in the state of California, any person in this country. This is not what rent assistance is provided for. She is going to a mental asylum, so she won't be receiving any more rental assistance. And this is also speaking to how legislation should be modeled. The government that is gang stalking does so and funds terrorism by paying the rent of demons who are unemployed, and their job is to engage in 24-hour surveillance like the elderly at Woodside Senior Apartments, and they do so with impunity, as I documented. So while I'm publishing the video evidence onto YouTube, while I am processing the audible activity for the podcast, the demon in unit number 55, which is license 5WUB715, this is a state actor that is engaged in what is hours of psychological torture. Again, and I started documenting it at 2:42 p.m. This is within ongoing ceaseless documentation, but I'm literally keeping a tally because this is how heavily the entity is stalking me and keeping me under surveillance and monitoring. And this is again born of fear because I'm publishing, and the entity continuously engages in that which is intended to obstruct justice, and does so as a mentally unstable population that has yet to understand the fact that they are going to federal prison for longer than the years that the state of California has been documented gang stalking, meaning they're going to federal prison for longer than 7 years. That's a minimum. That's not including obstruction. That's not including the multiple acts of kidnapping. That's not including the criminal defamation. That's not including the perpetual sex offense that is underway with impunity. That's also not including the violation under the Violence Against Women Act, which they're also criminally liable for. The entity is doing so for hours as a matter of documentation, which you will see in the WSA-the People document, but I want to include it on the podcast. And that's why I started this excerpt of podcast audio evidence, with the ongoing amplified audible activity of the ceiling cracking, the walls cracking, which you can hear it in the speaker. This is also coexisting with the ongoing booming and earthquake-like audible activity, which I also document is ongoing, and it's occurring with simultaneity to what I'm documenting, to what I'm publishing, as I physically move in the apartment that is filled with engineered light, that is under what is the fake sun, while a population is stalking with this demon in unit 55. Okay. Again, at 2:42 p.m., the demons are repeating this stalking via audible activity. The amplification of loud booms are sounding inside, reverberating inside of this apartment as I am documenting it. And this is when I began Unit 55. And this includes all of those that are going to federal prison. All of those that are in custody of children while they're engaged in domestic terrorism will not remain in custody of minor children. They're committing a sex offense while in custody of minor they're not remaining in custody of minor children. And this is the entity that's in units 33 through 64 who are going to prison. the entire property, which has 144 units, are being prosecuted for this. This is a snippet, if you will, an excerpt of documentation, which is going to be used. All of the evidence is going to be used against all of the entity that's in all of the units at Woodside Senior Apartments. I'm sharing this on the podcast for evidence that's being accumulated for today, February 22nd, 2025, as they engaged in together with the demon in Unit 55, who was not the natural explanation for the ongoing earthquake-like conduct, the loud booming and earthquake sounding, and also the amplified pacing, which is criminal interference with quiet enjoyment, which demons such as Daryl Carter, the CEO and chairman of AVANATH Capital Management, is going to be held liable for. And AVANATH Capital Management, the company name itself, is going to be prosecuted. All right. But they're also in violation of the Violence Against Women Act. So at 2:42 p.m. is when I start specifically noting it, because this is after I captured that video of the fake sun that's over reflecting off of the windshield. This is when I begin, then the entity is stalking me. So then I go through the process of publishing the evidence about the entity stalking me. And then the entity continuously engages in what is the psychological torture, now with the intent to obstruct justice, because I'm publishing the evidence about their criminal conduct that they continuously inflict. And this is the sixth cycle of the demon possessed, who are engaging in what is the effort to obstruct justice, and they're getting more justice, meaning you're getting more time. Specifically, the demons surrounding in units 33 through 64, who are acting in sync with the population. They are outside stalking in the path with flashing of light. They're outside pacing all around under the fake sun that remains over the apartment building with units 33 through 48. They are outside pacing around, walking around as pedestrians, together engaging in psychological torture, monitoring together, stalking as a population, while I'm inside noting the ongoing cycle of amplified audible activity that the demon in unit number 55, stalking directly above me, and doing so with the means of what is close stalking conduct by being directly above inside of the apartment, while the ongoing amplification of a demon walking around, pacing around in a 600 square foot apartment, concentrating that noise in over me, over the living room, because the demon knows that I'm in the living room. All right. When I'm in the kitchen, that's where the amplified booming occurs. When I'm in the bathroom, that's where the amplified booming occurs. And this is again where the engineered light fills the apartment, where engineered light covers the property, and where a fake sun remains over the specific building where I'm located. Okay. 2:42 p.m. ongoing amplified boom inside of the apartment. This is criminal activity that a landlord is going to be civilly and criminally prosecuted for, and that the demons in units 33 through 64 are going to prison for, that AVANATH Capital Management employees, including Linda Reyes, are going to prison for. Okay, she's going to prison for engaging in what is a program of psychological torture with the government, and doing so in furtherance of the state's conspiracy to murder me and to kidnap me and criminally defame me in doing so. And they maliciously psychologically torture while seeking to engage in a pattern of conduct of criminal defamation. That's what the repeated kidnappings were for. Linda Reyes is going to federal prison for this. Okay. It is 2:45 p.m. where the ongoing amplified booming is again heard inside of the unit. And as I document in text, the demon repeats it. This is ongoing psychological torture, criminal interference with quiet enjoyment. 2:57 p.m. And that's not to say that at 2:45 and at 2:42 p.m. this is the only occurrence. I'm noting it as I type out the documentation. It's ongoing. I continuously document as I go to a different task and the audible activity is resumed, because the entity is monitoring my every move as I go to a different app, as I go to a different device, for example, from my laptop to my cell phone, as I go to a different website, for example, from YouTube to the Google Drive, as I commence uploading evidence. This is when the audible activity is repeated. Okay, so this is monitoring every move, and this is the national security threat to you. Because the demons that are gang stalking, while they know that they're going to federal prison, they will blow up as many buildings, they will shoot as many people, they will stab and kidnap as many persons as they can until the point that they are restrained, until the point that they are killed themselves in order to neutralize the threat. That is what is embodied while the entity is gang stalking, and they're going to federal prison. Okay, I'm noting it because it's relevant to Daryl Carter's liability for the corrupt company that he is the chairman and CEO of, while his company that is managing Woodside Senior Apartments is criminally engaged in domestic terrorism and has the audacity to be profiting from that. Those profits are going to be drained. You're not retaining those profits, and you're also going to be liable civilly for damages with regard to the that which is not quantifiable, but that which I've been documenting, how a population is stalking someone and is monitoring someone while they are living at the crime scene.
And they're doing it on behalf of the government that is conspiring to murder someone who has already exposed that conspiracy. So here there will be no murder of Erica Lorraine Spencer. And now you're able to see even more clearly than just on the basis of them being demons who are gang stalking. They're still gang stalking and monitoring while I'm naming them. I'm identifying their companies. I'm identifying the departments of the government. I'm identifying those who have already been documented by name, image, and on video. This is the same criminal system that they've been engaged in. I'm speaking to all of the federal means of repercussions where you are being prosecuted, and they're still doing so. And this is how you're understanding what is not just the criminal tendencies of people that are just bad folks. These are the demon possessed who are obsessed, and they are mentally unstable. Okay, this is the most quiet that the demon has been for hours, and that's because my voice is the audible activity. All right, the entity is gang stalking under the fake sun that you saw in alignment to me as I showed it in the previous video. Well after 4 p.m. It's 4:34 p.m. The fake sun is still here, and the entity has been engaged in documented hours of amplified noise with my every move, with my every act of publishing the evidence, speaking to criminal activity. So 2:42 p.m., 2:45 p.m., the same demon in Unit 55, and again at 2:57 p.m. ongoing as video uploads, psychological torture commences, meaning ongoing loud boom inside of the apartment as I am uploading the videos onto the Google Drive and onto YouTube. At 3:05 p.m. again ongoing as documentation is uploading onto YouTube, and the podcast audio is being processed for publishing with simultaneity to beginning this task on the internet, which is criminal monitoring. And this is also a sex offense, because remember, while they're monitoring what I'm doing online and my physical movement in the apartment, they're also doing that when I'm physically indisposed and my genitalia is exposed, and they're obsessed with that aspect of me too. Those are sex offenders, admitted sex offenders, while they're monitoring, and they're also monitoring evidence that belongs to the federal government. Okay, the entity is doing so as I am publishing. This is at 3:05 p.m. At 3:13 p.m. ongoing as evidence is published onto YouTube and podcast audio is still being processed for publishing. The entity that's interfering with the operation of my communication devices, so I am going to different websites in order to get the task completed, in order to have my video podcast converted into audio and make it in the same consistent form that I always publish it. As I'm engaged in this task, the demon in unit number 55, license 5WUB715, is engaged in what is stalking, pacing, which is amplified in volume on behalf of the whole government, and they're all pacing around in traffic. They're all gang stalking, going to 7-Eleven. They're pacing around on foot, walking on the sidewalks, walking in the parking lot, driving through the parking lot, stalking, engaging in surveillance in the parking lot with their hat. This is all that the entity is doing outside, while inside psychological torture inside of the chambers of an apartment building where AVANATH Capital Management is engaged in domestic terrorism. All right, this is at what is 3:13 p.m. at ongoing documentation at 3:21 p.m. and this ongoing is ongoing as evidence processing and uploading online while the demon stays in the living room where the stalkers focus amplified audible activity presence over me with the entity that is under the idle fake sun and ILA, impossible light activity. These are my notes at 3:21 p.m. where I'm subject to this ongoing, every time I hear it, I just take note of it. Ongoing reverberating noise and booming and amplified pacing, I take note of it. And the entity is doing so while impossible light shoots through the apartment in all manner of direction, which you saw this morning at 8:06 in the morning, while the fake sun was on what is the east side of the front door, while the fake sun is on the west side of the front door at the same location. Impossible light that you saw on the floor in the living room, that's on the floor right now. Okay, while I am speaking, this is monitoring while my voice is the audible activity. All right, the entity is engaged in psychological torture through not only impossible light activity, through the ongoing that's criminal interference with quiet enjoyment, through the interference with appliances and communication devices, through which is also serving to monitor you, that's psychological torture as well, and it is interference with quiet enjoyment of a criminal nature, and also through the ongoing amplified noise that's sounding, an ongoing chorus of interruption, disruption, disconcerting noise inside of the apartment, which is criminal interference with quiet enjoyment, in addition to the demons who are pacing around like hollowed out zombies stalking. That's also a criminal interference with quiet enjoyment while they're all stalking together. Okay, this is an entity that's engaging in a program of psychological torture, which is designed to break a human being down so that they can murder them. So do not forget what AVANATH Capital Management is engaging in. And Daryl Carter, this is a corrupt CEO and chairman over a corrupt landlord a real estate management company, a property management company, just like speaker companies. This is what Maria Solis Alvarez was engaged in. All right. This is what Ted Noggle, excuse me, Don Noggle was engaged in. All right. This is what the entity gang stalking Selena Robledo, Carlo Lopez. All right. He wasn't a part of the corporate office, but I am speaking to the entity that were gang stalking me by being co-workers and gang stalking as the corporate office as well. They were monitoring me while I was on the phone with them, and the fake son in LAPD was gang stalking in helicopter and creating what is amplified helicopter, creating what is ongoing amplified noises inside of my office and inside of my apartment, and doing more of it as I document it and then publish the evidence onto my Google Drive. While I remained in Los Angeles, I did not yet create my YouTube channel and republish everything, because I published this evidence before, not in 2024 because 2024 hadn't happened yet, but up to 2022 I had published all this evidence. I removed it after the entity kidnapped me, and the federal government had not intervened, had not come and stopped the state from targeting me in furtherance of murder. The federal government still to date has not interfered and stopped the state government from targeting me, which again is relevant with regard to the federal government's involvement and knowledge about what the state of California has engaged in, about what it is that I've proven, and how willing the federal government is actually with regard to intervening and actually stopping it. That's relevant. I'm not on anybody's side. Okay, I am speaking to the truth of what Satan is doing and what the state government is doing. The federal government is not ignorant, and you already know that because the federal government has offices in the state of California. That's what the IRS is in San Bernardino. That's what the Federal Bureau of Investigations having an office in Los Angeles. That's what they represent. Homeland Security has an office in San Bernardino, I.I.S. Also, the federal government is engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring, and its inability, its desire to not stop what the state is doing is relevant to the federal government's level, how compromised that it is. Because the federal government's not ignorant about what it is that I'm exposing either. And the federal government to date has yet to intervene and stop the state from psychologically torturing an American citizen. And if anyone thinks that failing to intervene and stop and provide justice now as a means of thinking that you're going to stop me from or control me or cause me to make a certain decision one way or another, you also do not understand who it is you're sitting around watching while you're watching me document the state of California. You will not exercise any control over me by your failure to provide justice to an American citizen that has already done your job. I want to be clear. All right. I want to make sure that this is clear. It's currently 3:55 p.m. It's currently 4:41 p.m. And I'm documenting the ongoing psychological torture inside of an apartment building. And at what is 3:21 p.m., the ongoing amplified noise inside of the apartment, which is state action. All right. And doing so while, again, at 4:22 p.m., that's not to state that it was quiet in between 4:22 and 3:21 p.m. The entity, as I engage in new tasks on the internet, while they're fearful of, go from one website to another, and I might get it this time, and the entity is fearful and uses psychological torture to merely terrorize and harass someone that is aware of what they're doing, that is publishing evidence of it. Okay. I want to make sure that that's clear. At 3:42 p.m., the entity is engaging in that pattern of conduct. You know what? Yeah, that's a typo. 3:21 p.m. and then 3:22 p.m., not 4:22 p.m. All right. So at 3:21 p.m., it is ongoing as evidence is processing and uploading online while the demon in Unit 55 stays in the living room where, stalkers focus amplified audible activity with presence over me, and the amplified loud noise of an ongoing booming and pacing by this demon who is concentrating this pacing in the living room because this is where the demon is stalking. That's called relevant positioning. And amplified audible activity, doing so with the intent to obstruct justice. In other words, I'm psychologically torturing you because you're publishing evidence, and I'm frustrated and I want to harass you. And the ordinary target individual is scared to death, petrified by this, and reasonably so. And doing so on behalf of the government that uses the population against you. That's relevant to government actors who are subject to federal prison. All right. And I want to be clear, justice is not going to be reduced or limited because of the federal government's disdain for providing justice sooner than later. Put it that way, put it in those terms. Justice shall be in the way that I've dictated it, seeing as how I lived through it and seeing as how I broke down what the state government has been engaged in and the federal government to whatever degree. Okay. They can debate amongst themselves, but the federal government is inevitably engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. All right. These puppets of the state, they're acting with the knowledge of the federal government. This is why you have such a level of impunity, because the demons thought that they could use spell work. They could use their sex rituals, whatever it is that they use ordinarily to control and silence people. But that is not going to work. There is a level where the witchcraft and the lies that Satan has been casting, it's only going to extend so far. There will be justice provided. And I want to be clear, justice shall not be limited because of the federal government that is not providing, I would say, and yes, I will say it. I'm not going to apologize for that, because the ordinary target individual is subject to what is ongoing targeting, and it is untimely justice. It is untimely. So the entity is engaging in an ongoing pattern of conduct, and is this a question? To what degree is the federal government engaged in it when they're sitting back and they're watching? Okay. So that's what I would say. That's what I would put out there. But I'm advocating on behalf of the ordinary target individual. And were I in the position of the federal government, having collected the facts and aware of it, you neutralize that threat and you remove that person from that ongoing threat. You don't watch them be subject to torture. You don't watch them have their life threatened. You don't watch them be kidnapped like the entity has. They watch me be kidnapped in jail. They watch the entity drug my body. They put drugs in my person, in my body. They watch that, and they're still watching, and I'm aware of that. And that I also want to be clear, justice is going to recognize that as well. Justice with regard to every person that's subject to federal prison. Justice with regard to the damages that are to be rewarded based on all that has been inflicted, including the federal government sitting back and watching. All right. The entity is engaged in this pattern of conduct while the feds are watching. The demon in unit number 55, who is acting on behalf of the entity, is maintaining a chorus of amplified audible activity, which Daryl Carter, sitting over a corrupt gang stalking landlord that is managing the property, that is civilly and criminally liable at 3:48 p.m. ongoing booming, 3:55 p.m. ongoing booming, heard in sound. And as I publish evidence, it's already shared on the Google Drive. The evidence is the demons continuously engage in it. So at 4:01 p.m., this is monitoring all the internet activity as I resume use of my laptop, and the demon in unit number 55, amplified pacing occurs with simultaneity. As the entity, as I'm noting specifically Daryl Carter and the demons at Woodside Senior Apartments, they are one entity at gang stalking together under the commercial name of AVANATH Capital Management, which is all under what is the criminal conduct of the state of California that is engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. All right. It is currently 4:46 p.m. This is being added onto the podcast. I did go through the process of creating processing the podcast audio in order to document the entity that's obsessively engaged in psychological torture. This is, again, the demon license plate 5WUB715. This is a government actor. All right, that's stalking on behalf of the state. This is what the population in the state of California is actually engaged in. These are not private citizens in the state of California. They are stalking as a population throughout the state of California. They engage in criminal activity on behalf of the state of California. This is why the government directly engages in it in concert with them, as I document these state actors who are stalking at a crime scene, not living within the constitutionally protected bounds of the First Amendment at a private residence. They are all engaged in federal group stalking monitoring together, and the specific environment is also evidence of it. And the demons in units 33 through 64 are going to federal prison, and the entity is liable civilly for this excerpt of what is a documentation of psychological torture. It is currently 4:47 p.m. and the entity is documented, as I maintained a list as of 2:42 p.m. just to be, psychological torture inflicted by entity, including the gang stalkers AVANATH, who are monitoring and you're monitoring while your property is the subject of federal group stalking and monitoring. You're monitoring and you're civilly liable where the entity is engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring as a statewide system. Every business is engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. They're monitoring on communication devices. Every company knows when I'm documenting them by company name. They know when I'm documenting their license plates. They know when I'm naming their employees. They know when I'm speaking to the address, when I'm capturing any audio. They know everything, and they're engaged in federal stalking by company name and by the individuals by name who make up an entity. All right, so this is the documentation of hours of psychological torture, and the demons going to prison for that include the AVANATH Capital Management employees, including Linda Reyes, and the demon that lives in unit number 41. He lives with other adult occupants who are heavily documented engaged in gang stalking, and doing so as both residents and employee, and an employee lives in there in unit number 41. So I want to make sure that I document this, and this is criminal activity that AVANATH Capital Management is engaged in. And AVANATH Capital Management is not a private business; it's a state actor. All right, doing so with impunity. It's 4:48 p.m. The ongoing sound of boom, boom, like a heavy boom, is sounding inside of the apartment right now, while the demons are pacing on the sidewalk, and your upright shadow, just like you saw my shadow in the video on the living room wall, that's what they're doing on the patio glass door. So you know exactly what it is that I'm describing, and those are stalkers that are doing that. All right, it is currently 4:48 p.m. This is Daryl J. Carter, Chairman and CEO, and AVANATH Capital Management, civilly and criminally liable for domestic terrorism that's underway, and while the company is profiting from that. Okay, units 33 through 64 and AVANATH Capital Management employees subject to federal prison, and the state actors, many of whom, for example, are Ontario Police Department officers, going to federal prison as an entity, as all of the evidence is going to be used against all of the entity at federal prosecution. It is currently 4:49 p.m. This is P.O.C. Right, this is of what is shadow of patio furniture. The patio furniture on the opposite side of the patio. This is speaking to horizontally aimed engineered light that's appearing underneath a covered structure. And this is also evidence of what is not the natural sun, as I'm documenting it remaining for the duration of the day. Again, on yet another day, where I just documented on the podcast, which you will hear. It's currently 4:51 p.m. I'm documenting what was hours 2:42 p.m. until the present. The entity is engaged in a pattern of psychological torture, which I documented through what is the document entitled W.S.A. the People. This is impossible light activity that is appearing also. I want you to see, if you can see this. This is engineer light. You can see this. It's streaming on the floor in this direction. This is the same light activity you can see here. This light activity is streaming into the depths, and you can see it more clearly on the carpet here. That's impossible light activity. And this is also impossible light activity, as you're seeing the shadow of furniture that's on the opposite side of the patio. That's speaking to light that's shooting in this direction, straight horizontally, in other words, and the sun that has sunlight that's coming downward. And that's speaking to a fake sun that is necessarily in alignment to me. And this is also not the product of sunlight. This is where the entity engaged in hours of documented psychological torture, doing so with impunity as I am documenting it. This is impossible light that's coming through a peephole, having nothing to do with sunlight. Neither does this. This has nothing to do with sunlight. And the sun would not be in the same position. This is where you're looking at a pattern of stalkers. This is what the demon that was gang stalked with the Ontario police. This is what the demon is doing with the Mazda. The MARMMAK is the Arizona license plate while they're stalking. They're doing so under a fake sun. That is, again, this is where it was at 11:40 in the morning. This is non-movement. And this is the patio furniture that's appearing. The shadow of it is appearing. That's speaking to the fake sun and engineer light that's being shot at me. That's called stalking in the path while the elderly get in and out of vehicles, while the entity comes onto the grounds. This is the prosecution of, again, the chairman, Daryl Carter, the chairman and CEO of the corrupt company, AVANATH Capital Management, that is engaged in domestic terrorism, and they're profiting while they are engaged in real estate. This is impossible. That's also appearing on the door. Light is shooting on the inside of the apartment, creating the shadow of this furniture onto this glass door. It's also reflecting off of the glass door appearing over there. This is the P.O.C. of recognizing what is. And this fake sun is in the same position where it was when I walk out into the parking lot and the Ontario police fly over my head. And then it advances to be back right over this building where I documented at 8:40 in the morning, at 10:40 in the morning yesterday afternoon, at 11:40 this morning, and what is right now, what is 4:53 p.m. when it's literally in the same outside of the same patio glass door, and I'm showing you the light source where the entity is stalking as a population. This is where you have hours of psychological torture by the demons that live at the venue. To the grounds engaging in just that, stalking in the path while amplified audible activity sounds. This is not sunlight. This is engineer light. This is also engineer light on the building over here. This is engineer light on the. That's P.O.C. That's not sunlight. And none of this will occur with regard to the sun being over the Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles, which is what I've documented. Okay, so this is identifying stalking by a community.
all right, and doing so with impunity. As you're looking at the engineer light, that's P.O.C, and you have again license MARMMAK, the demon that's living in unit number 42, the African American that was gang stalking with the Ontario Police today, engaging in the same pattern of stalking in the path with light, 9FYK536. This is also documentation of impunity. The entity that is engaged in what is ongoing psychological torture, doing so with the police that are gang stalking as a community, and they're doing so while they know that they're being documented. So the entity is acting with impunity, then that is relevant to what is federal prison. All right, the entity is doing so on an ongoing basis and is doing so in violation of the Violence Against Women Act as well. The entity is doing so on a cyclical basis with the entity that is gang stalking unit number 55. This is all engineer light. You can see there's light that's appearing. My shadow's appearing over here. That's not sunlight. They're all stalking, and this is the shadow that's appearing horizontally. That's speaking to the fake sun, and that's all impossible light as well. For the maintenance of engineer light is speaking to stalking and activity creation and knowledge about what you're doing inside of a private space. This is the same light activity at nightfall when the entity is gang stalking me by helicopters, and you'll see me doing this on the same apartment where the demons in Unit 52 are going to prison. It's currently, again, 4:55 p.m. Okay, this is video evidence to coincide with the podcast documentation that I captured, denoting AVANATH Capital Management's engagement in psychological torture and stalking as a corrupt business with the government, providing a basis to do so. And you're looking at that pattern of stalking in the path with a fake sun and the ongoing amplified audible activity while they are engaging in that pattern of conduct, and to do so while you're documenting the state government and they engage in this sort of conduct as a population. That's impunity and malice, and that's relevant to time in federal prison, and that's exactly what they're going to be prosecuted for when they're in federal court. All right, it's not individualized crime, it's the crime of the entity. The entity on this day does not care about going to federal prison. When they're in court and they're being sentenced to prolonged terms of federal prison, this is the evidence that you're going to recall. It is currently, again, 4:56 p.m., and that's within a pattern of conduct, while engineer light, which is not the product of sun, where the sun would not be at the same apartment building, it's never in Los Angeles at Alvarado Gardens, which is what I documented this time of year when I'm staying in Los Angeles and living in Los Angeles. All right, the two are not happening at the same time, and neither are actually occurring in the natural environment because the sun is not rising and setting at the same address. This is P.O.C. It's 4:56 p.m.